The night sky stretched endlessly above the small observatory, perched atop Celestial Hill, its dark canvas decorated with countless twinkling stars. Young Orion pressed his eye against the telescope's eyepiece, his breath catching in his throat as he traced the magnificent spiral arm of the Milky Way. How many times had he climbed this hill, seeking answers in the cosmic dance above? Tonight felt different, though. Tonight, the stars seemed to whisper his name. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a gentle voice asked, startling Orion from his stargazing reverie. He turned to find an elderly woman standing nearby, her silver hair reflecting the starlight like strands of cosmic silk. The way the stars paint stories across the sky. "Who are you?" Orion asked, curiosity overtaking his initial surprise. There was something about her presence that felt both ancient and familiar, like a constellation he'd known all his life, but was only now truly seeing. "I'm Lyra," she replied, her eyes twinkling with the same intensity as the stars above. "And I've been watching you, young astronomer. Night after night, you come here seeking something among the stars. Tell me, what draws you to the heavens?" Orion's hands fidgeted with the telescope's focus knob as he considered her question. "I've always felt there's more up there than what we can see. Sometimes, when I look at the Milky Way, it's like it's trying to tell me something. Is that crazy?" Lyra's laugh was melodious, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Not crazy at all. In fact, you might be more right than you know." She reached into the folds of her starlit robe and withdrew what appeared to be an ancient scroll, its edges worn and yellow with age. "What if I told you the Milky Way holds secrets beyond your wildest dreams?" As she unfurled the scroll, Orion's eyes widened. Before him lay a map unlike any he'd ever seen. Constellations connected by ethereal lines, mysterious symbols dotting the margins, and at its center, a detailed rendering of the Milky Way that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. "What is this?" he breathed, reaching out to touch the map but stopping short, afraid it might crumble beneath his fingers. "This, dear Orion, is a map that has been passed down through generations of stargazers. It shows not just where the stars are, but what they mean, what they hide, and most importantly, what they protect." Lyra's voice took on a mysterious tone. "Have you ever wondered why humans have always been drawn to the stars? Why every civilization has its own stories about the Milky Way?" Orion nodded, remembering all the myths and legends he'd read about in his astronomical studies. Every culture seems to have its own explanation for how it was created. "And what if I told you that all those stories contain fragments of truth?" Lyra traced a pattern on the map with her finger. "The Milky Way isn't just our galaxy, Orion. It's a gateway, a keeper of secrets, and perhaps even the key to understanding our place in the universe." As if responding to Lyra's words, the stars above seemed to pulse brighter. Orion felt a shiver run down his spine as he looked from the map to the sky and back again. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you're ready," Lyra said simply. "I've watched you grow in your understanding of the cosmos, seen your dedication to unraveling its mysteries. But more importantly, I've seen your heart, pure in its pursuit of knowledge, untainted by desire for power or fame." "Ready for what?" Orion asked, though something in his heart already knew the answer. "Ready to begin a journey that will take you beyond the telescope's eye, beyond the known boundaries of astronomical science." Lyra's eyes met his, and in them he saw reflected the very mysteries he'd always longed to understand. "The Milky Way is calling, Orion. Will you answer?" The question hung in the air like stardust, heavy with possibility. Orion looked up at the galaxy sprawling across the night sky, its spiral arms reaching out like an invitation. How many nights had he spent wondering about its secrets? How many times had he dreamed of discovering something extraordinary among the stars? "I will," he said firmly, his voice stronger than he expected. "But I have so many questions. Where do we begin? What are we looking for?" Lyra smiled, rolling up the ancient map with careful precision. "All journeys begin with a single step, or in this case, a single story. Tomorrow, you'll meet someone who can help you understand the tales written in the stars. Her name is Cassiopeia, and she knows things about the Milky Way that aren't written in any astronomy book. As Orion helped Lyra secure the map, a shooting star streaked across the sky, as if sealing their agreement. "Will you teach me to read the map?" he asked eagerly. "In time," Lyra assured him. "But first, you must learn to read the stars themselves. They speak their own language, Orion, and understanding it is the first step in your journey." As they descended Celestial Hill together, Orion's mind raced with possibilities. The familiar weight of his telescope in his backpack felt different now, like a tool that would help him unlock not just the visible universe, but its hidden secrets as well. "One more thing," Lyra said as they reached the bottom of the hill. "This path you're choosing, it won't be easy. There will be those who don't want these secrets revealed, those who would rather keep the mysteries of the Milky Way hidden. Are you prepared for that?" Orion thought about all the nights he'd spent stargazing, all the questions that had burned in his mind, all the dreams of discovery that had filled his heart. "I've been preparing my whole life," he replied. "I just didn't know it until now." The stars winked above them, witnesses to this moment of beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new mysteries, and new adventures. But for now, Orion stood at the threshold of something greater than he'd ever imagined, ready to take his first step into a journey that would change not just his understanding of the cosmos, but of reality itself. What secrets did the ancient map hold? What tales would Cassiopeia share? And most importantly, what mysteries lay hidden in the heart of the Milky Way, waiting to be discovered? As the crisp night air wrapped around him like a familiar blanket, Orion sat cross-legged on the hilltop, his eyes fixed intently on the ancient map spread before him. The parchment, weathered by time yet still bearing its celestial secrets, seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy under the starlight. Beside him, Lyra's gentle voice carried through the darkness, teaching him the age-old art of stellar navigation. "Do you see how the stars align, Orion?" Lyra asked, her silver hair catching the starlight. "They're not just random points of light. They're nature's own compass, guiding those who know how to read them." She traced her finger along the constellation, leaving a faint trail of luminescence in its wake. Orion leaned forward, his brow furrowed in concentration. "But how can we be sure they'll always lead us true?" He wondered aloud, voicing the doubt that had been nagging at him since they began their lessons. Lyra smiled knowingly. "That's where the magic of consistency comes in. While our world turns and changes, the stars remain faithful to their paths. The North Star, for instance, has guided countless travelers home throughout history. But to truly understand their power, you need to hear their stories." As if on cue, a melodious voice drifted toward them from the shadows. "And stories, young stargazer, are what bring the stars to life." Cassiopeia emerged from the darkness, her long robes adorned with shimmering patterns that mimicked the night sky above. Her appearance was both unexpected and somehow perfectly timed, as if the stars themselves had summoned her. Orion's eyes widened with recognition. He had heard whispers about the legendary storyteller, but had never expected to meet her in person. "Are you really Cassiopeia, the keeper of celestial myths?" The woman's laugh was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "The very same. And you must be Orion, the young astronomer who's been causing quite a stir among the Star Watchers." She settled beside them, her movements as fluid as flowing water. "Would you tell us a story?" Orion asked eagerly, temporarily forgetting about his navigation lessons. Lyra nodded encouragingly, knowing that Cassiopeia's tales were not mere entertainment, but carried deep wisdom within them. "Very well," Cassiopeia began, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality that seemed to make the stars themselves pulse brighter. "Long ago, when the world was young and the sky was dark, there lived a young navigator much like yourself, Orion. She believed that the darkness above was not empty, but filled with hidden lights waiting to be discovered." As Cassiopeia's tale unfolded, Orion found himself drawn into a world where stars were more than just distant suns. They were living beings with their own stories and purposes. The storyteller spoke of how the first celestial compass came to be, woven from the tears of a goddess who wished to guide lost souls home. "But remember," Cassiopeia paused, fixing Orion with a penetrating gaze, "the stars do more than guide our ships and feet. They guide our hearts and minds as well. Have you never wondered why certain constellations call to you more than others? The question struck a chord within Orion. He had always felt a special connection to certain star patterns, but had never understood why. How did you know? He asked, amazed. Because the stars chose you just as they chose Lyra before you, and me before her, Cassiopeia revealed. We're all part of an ancient lineage of star readers, each with our own role to play in keeping the celestial knowledge alive. As the night deepened, Cassiopeia taught Orion how each constellation held not just navigational significance, but also carried important lessons about life, death, and the eternal dance of the cosmos. She showed him how to read the stories written in the stars, explaining how these tales were maps themselves, not just of physical locations, but of spiritual and emotional journeys as well. Lyra watched with approval as her student absorbed these new lessons, knowing that true navigation required more than just technical knowledge. It required an understanding of the deeper connections between all things in the universe. But there's something troubling the stars tonight, Cassiopeia suddenly said, her voice growing serious. They speak of a gathering darkness, a challenge that will test your newfound knowledge in ways you cannot yet imagine. Orion felt a shiver run down his spine, not from fear, but from excitement. What kind of challenge? He asked, leaning forward eagerly. Cassiopeia exchanged a meaningful look with Lyra before answering. The stars say you will need to find something that has been lost for centuries, something that lies at the heart of the Milky Way itself. But to reach it, you'll need more than just the ability to navigate by stars. You'll need courage, wisdom, and most importantly, you'll need friends. As if in response to her words, a shooting star streaked across the sky, leaving a trail of golden light in its wake. That's a sign, Cassiopeia whispered. Your journey is about to begin, young Orion. Are you ready to follow where the stars lead? Before Orion could answer, a familiar voice called out from the darkness. He won't be going alone. Andromeda stepped into the circle of starlight, her explorer's pack already slung over her shoulder. The stars may be your guide, Orion, but every navigator needs a fellow adventurer. The night seemed to hold its breath as Orion looked between his mentor, the storyteller, and his friend. He knew that this moment marked the beginning of something much bigger than himself. The stars above twinkled with ancient secrets, waiting to be discovered, and for the first time, Orion felt truly ready to uncover them. But what mysteries await our young astronomer and his companions? What darkness does Cassiopeia sense approaching? And how will the celestial compass guide them through the challenges ahead? The answers lie written in the stars, waiting for those brave enough to read them. The stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet as Orion and Lyra made their way through the winding path leading to Cassiopeia's dwelling. The night was young, and anticipation filled the air. After learning to navigate by the stars, Orion felt a deeper connection to the cosmos than ever before, but he knew there was still so much more to discover. Do you think Cassiopeia will share more stories tonight? Orion asked Lyra, his voice barely containing his excitement. Lyra smiled knowingly. Patience, young one. Cassiopeia's tales are like the stars themselves. They reveal themselves only when the time is right. As they approached the storyteller's home, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. It was Andromeda, her eyes bright with curiosity and adventure. I hoped I'd find you here, she said, falling into step beside them. I couldn't resist joining when I heard you were visiting Cassiopeia again. The door to Cassiopeia's dwelling opened before they could knock, releasing the warm glow of candlelight into the night. The storyteller stood in the doorway, her silver hair reflecting the starlight like a constellation come to life. I've been expecting you, she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. The stars have been particularly chatty tonight. Inside, they gathered around a circular table where an ancient star map lay unfurled. Cassiopeia took her place at the head of the table, her fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air. Have you ever wondered, she began, why the Milky Way appears as a river of light across our night sky? The question hung in the air like stardust. Orion leaned forward, eager to hear more. Is it true that it's made of countless stars? He asked. Cassiopeia's eyes sparkled. Yes, But there's so much more to the story. In the beginning, when the universe was young, there was a great phoenix who flew across the void, leaving trails of stardust in its wake. These became the first stars of our galaxy. Andromeda gasped softly. The phoenix, the same one that's said to live at the galaxy's center. The very same, Cassiopeia confirmed. But the phoenix wasn't alone in creating our cosmic home. Have you heard of Draco? The name sent a shiver through the room. Lyra's expression grew serious, and Orion noticed how she gripped her staff tighter. Draco, Cassiopeia continued, was the keeper of cosmic fire. While the phoenix created, Draco maintained balance. Together, they danced through the void, weaving the tapestry of stars we see today. But what happened to them? Orion couldn't help but ask, why don't we see them anymore? Cassiopeia's voice dropped to a whisper. Some say Draco still watches from the shadows between stars, guarding ancient secrets. And the phoenix? It waits at the heart of our galaxy, ready to renew the cycle when the time comes. Andromeda stood up suddenly, her eyes blazing with determination. We need to find them, don't we? That's why we're all here. The galaxy's story isn't finished. Lyra nodded slowly. The ancient maps I've been teaching Orion to read, they're not just for navigation, are they, Cassiopeia? The storyteller smiled mysteriously. Every constellation tells a story, but some stories are maps in themselves. The tale of the Milky Way's creation is written in the stars, waiting for those brave enough to read it. Then we'll read it, Orion declared, looking at Andromeda, who nodded in agreement. But how do we begin? Cassiopeia reached beneath the table and pulled out an ornate box. Opening it revealed a crystal that seemed to contain a universe within. This is the stellar key, she explained. It responds to starlight and the stories held within them. With it, you can begin to unravel the galaxy's greatest mysteries. But remember, she warned, knowledge of the cosmos comes with responsibility. The path you're choosing to walk is ancient and powerful. Are you prepared for what you might discover? Orion looked at Andromeda, then at Lyra, feeling the weight of the moment. We are, they answered in unison. Cassiopeia nodded approvingly. Then let me tell you of the 7 celestial gates, the guardians of galactic knowledge, and the trials you must face to reach the Phoenix realm. As the night deepened, Cassiopeia's tales painted vivid pictures of cosmic wonders and ancient challenges. With each story, the path ahead became clearer, yet more daunting. Orion felt his heart race with both excitement and trepidation. This was more than just learning about the stars now. It was about uncovering the very essence of their cosmic home. What mysteries awaited them at the 7 celestial gates? Would they truly find Draco lurking in the shadows between stars? And what would happen when they finally reached the Phoenix at the galaxy's heart? These questions burned in Orion's mind as bright as the stars themselves, marking the beginning of an adventure that would change their lives forever. The night wore on, and with each tale, Andromeda's presence grew more crucial. Her practical knowledge of exploration would complement Orion's astronomical expertise perfectly. Together, with Lyra's wisdom and Cassiopeia's stories guiding them, they would embark on a journey that hadn't been attempted in centuries. As dawn approached, they left Cassiopeia's dwelling with a stellar key and a new purpose. The Milky Way stretched above them like a roadmap to destiny, and somewhere in its vast expanse, ancient beings awaited their arrival. The real journey was about to begin. As the first rays of twilight painted the sky in deep purples and blues, Orion and Andromeda stood atop the highest hill in the valley, their eyes fixed on the emerging stars above. The ancient map from Lyra trembled slightly in Orion's hands, its weathered edges catching the last remnants of daylight. Are you certain about this? Andromeda asked, her voice carrying both excitement and apprehension. Following the galaxy's path isn't exactly like following a regular map. Orion traced the intricate patterns on the parchment with his finger, remembering Lyra's words about the importance of timing. Cassiopeia's stories mentioned that the ancients used to trace the Milky Way's path during the darkest nights of the year. According to her, that's when the veil between our world and the celestial realm is thinnest. As darkness settled completely, the magnificent river of stars that formed the Milky Way became visible, stretching across the sky like a luminous ribbon. Orion couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay hidden within those countless points of light. The pair began their journey using Lyra's map as their guide. The ancient document showed more than just stars. It revealed hidden pathways between constellations, secret meeting points where celestial energy converged. But something was different tonight. The stars seemed to pulse with an unusual intensity, as if responding to their presence. "Look there." Andromeda pointed toward a cluster of stars that seemed to move against the natural flow of the night sky. "That's not normal star movement, is it?" Before Orion could respond, a deep voice emerged from the shadows behind them. The stars rarely behave normally when someone seeks to understand their true nature. They turned to find a tall, mysterious figure standing at the edge of the clearing. His cloak seemed to shimmer with starlight, and his eyes held the depth of ancient wisdom. This had to be Draco, the reclusive figure Cassiopeia had warned them about. "You're Draco, aren't you?" Orion stepped forward, his heart racing with both fear and anticipation. "We've been looking for you." Draco's expression remained unchanged as he studied them intently. "Looking for me? Or looking for answers about the Milky Way? There's a crucial difference, young stargazer." The way he spoke made Orion pause. What did he mean by that? Was there more to their quest than simply mapping the galaxy's path? Andromeda, ever practical, cut through the tension. "We need your help. The map shows patterns we can't understand, and Cassiopeia's stories speak of your knowledge of the galaxy's secrets." A slight smile crossed Draco's face. "Ah, Cassiopeia. She knows many tales, but even she doesn't know the whole truth. The Milky Way isn't just a collection of stars. It's alive conscious, and it chooses who may understand its mysteries." As if responding to his words, the stars above brightened momentarily, creating patterns that seemed to mirror the markings on Lyra's map. Orion watched in amazement as previously hidden symbols on the parchment began to glow with a faint blue light. "Your mentor Lyra gave you more than just a map," Draco continued, moving closer to examine the glowing parchment. "She gave you a key, but are you ready to use it? The path of a true stargazer requires more than curiosity. It demands courage, wisdom, and the ability to see beyond what's visible." Orion and Andromeda exchanged glances. They had expected to find answers, but instead, they were discovering that their journey was far more complex than they had imagined. What other secrets lay hidden in the map? And why had the stars chosen this moment to reveal themselves? Draco's next words sent a shiver down their spines. "The phoenix stirs at the galaxy's heart, and its awakening will change everything. You're not just following a path through the stars. You're part of an ancient cycle that's beginning anew." The night grew deeper as Draco began to share his knowledge, revealing layers of cosmic understanding that neither Orion nor Andromeda had imagined possible. He spoke of celestial patterns that predicted future events, of hidden connections between the stars and the earth below, and of a coming alignment that would make the impossible possible. But with each revelation came new questions. Why had Lyra chosen this specific time to share the map? What role did the Phoenix play in their journey? And most importantly, were they truly ready for what lay ahead? As the stars continued their eternal dance overhead, Orion realized that their first attempt to trace the galaxy's path had become something far more significant. They weren't just following a map. They were being drawn into a cosmic story that had been unfolding for millennia. Draco's final words that night echoed with both promise and warning. "The path you seek is not just in the sky, but in the space between the stars. Remember, young ones, sometimes the brightest truths hide in the darkest spaces." The night was far from over, and their journey had only just begun. What other mysteries awaited them in the vast expanse of the Milky Way, and how would their encounter with Draco change the course of their quest? The stars above seemed to twinkle with knowing anticipation, holding their secrets close as Orion and Andromeda prepared for the next phase of their celestial adventure. The true path of the stargazer was revealing itself, one mysterious step at a time. The flickering light of the campfire cast dancing shadows across Draco's weathered face as he sat before the group, his eyes reflecting the flames like distant stars. Orion, Andromeda, and Lyra leaned forward, hanging on to every word the mysterious figure spoke. Cassiopeia sat slightly apart, her storyteller's mind already weaving this moment into a tale for future generations. The heart of the Milky Way, Fracca began, his voice barely above a whisper, isn't merely a place. It's a truth that few have dared to seek. He traced patterns in the dirt with a gnarled stick, creating symbols that seemed to shimmer in the firelight. But are you prepared for what you might find there? Orion exchanged glances with Andromeda, their shared determination evident. We've come too far to turn back now, he said firmly. Please, Draco, tell us what you know. Draco's lips curved into a knowing smile. Very well. But remember, young stargazer, some truths are better revealed in riddles than spoken plainly. He drew 3 interconnected circles in the dirt. In the dance of 3 rings bright, where shadows meet the light, the phoenix makes its nest, neither moving east nor west. Lyra's eyes widened with recognition. The celestial rings, she breathed. I've seen references to them in ancient star charts, but they were always dismissed as myths. Are they really myths, though? Andromeda questioned, her explorer's instinct awakening. We've seen too many myths prove true on this journey already. Cassiopeia moved closer to the fire, her voice carrying the weight of countless stories. In the oldest tales, the phoenix was said to guard a great secret at the galaxy's heart. They say it holds the power of cosmic renewal, but none who sought it ever returned to tell the tale. But what are these 3 rings? Orion asked, frustration evident in his voice. And how do we find them? Draco raised a hand, silencing the group. Look not to the ground, young one, but to the stars themselves. The answer lies in what you already know. He pointed upward, where the Milky Way stretched across the night sky like a river of light. As the group gazed upward, Andromeda suddenly gasped. The dark patches, the areas where the stars seemed to disappear, they formed patterns. Lyra quickly pulled out her ancient map, spreading it on the ground. Yes, look here, she traced her finger along certain points. These dark regions have been marked, but I never understood their significance before. The spaces between the stars are as important as the stars themselves, Draco mused. Sometimes, what we can't see tells us more than what we can. Orion studied the map intently, his mind racing. These dark patches, they form 3 overlapping circles when viewed from the right angle. But they're only visible during certain times of the year. And the next alignment is approaching, Cassiopeia added, her storyteller's knowledge proving invaluable once again. During the summer solstice, where the night is shortest but the stars shine brightest. That's less than a week away, Andromeda calculated quickly. We'll need to find the perfect viewing location before then. Draco nodded approvingly. The first piece of the puzzle falls into place. But remember, the phoenix guards its secrets jealously. The path ahead will test not just your knowledge, but your courage and unity as well. As the night deepened, the group discussed their next steps, their voices mixing with the crackling of the fire. But Orion noticed something else, a subtle change in the stars above them. Certain constellations seemed to shine more brightly than before, as if responding to their discovery. Look, he pointed upward. The stars, they're showing us something. Indeed, a pattern was emerging in the night sky, a sequence of stars pulsing with an unusual brightness. Draco watched silently as the others scrambled to record the pattern in their notes. The phoenix reaches out, he finally said, his voice carrying a note of warning. It knows you're coming, but will you be ready for what you find? The question hung in the air, unanswered. As the fire died down to embers, each member of the group was lost in their own thoughts. They had their first real clue to finding the phoenix, but with it came more questions than answers. What would they find at the convergence of the 3 rings? What secrets did the phoenix guard so carefully? And most importantly, were they truly prepared for the challenges that lay ahead? As they prepared for sleep, Orion couldn't help but feel that they were standing on the edge of something momentous. The stars above seemed to watch them with newfound intensity, as if the very galaxy itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what they would do next. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new riddles to solve. But for now, they had hope, and sometimes that was the most powerful force in the universe. The night sky blazed with an unprecedented brilliance as Orion, Andromeda, Lyra, and Cassiopeia stood atop the ancient observatory. Their recent encounter with Draco's cryptic messages still weighed heavily on their minds, but tonight's celestial display demanded their complete attention. "I've never seen anything quite like this," Orion whispered, his voice filled with wonder as he watched the stars shift into peculiar formations. The constellations seemed to move with purpose, like dancers in a cosmic ballet. "Lyra, is this what you meant when you spoke of the Great Alignment?" Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Indeed, but even I didn't expect such magnificence. Look there," she pointed toward a cluster of stars that appeared to be drawing closer together. The ancient texts spoke of this moment, but witnessing it firsthand is something entirely different. Andromeda pulled out her journal, frantically sketching the patterns above. "The stars are forming shapes I've never seen before. It's as if they're trying to tell us something." She turned to Cassiopeia, who stood silent, her face bearing an expression of deep understanding. "They are telling us something," Cassiopeia finally spoke, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of celestial wisdom. "This alignment is no coincidence. It's a message, one that relates directly to what Draco told us about the Phoenix." The group gathered closer as Cassiopeia began to explain. "Every 1,000 years, the constellations arrange themselves in this precise pattern. Our ancestors called it the celestial dance, a moment when the boundaries between the cosmic realms grow thin. But what does it mean for our quest?" Orion asked, his mind racing with possibilities. "How does this connect to the Phoenix and the heart of the Milky Way?" Cassiopeia traced invisible lines between the stars with her finger. "See how the stars form a spiral? This pattern mirrors the very shape of our galaxy. The ancient stories tell us that during this alignment, the Phoenix location is revealed to those who know how to read the signs." As if responding to her words, the stars pulsed with increased intensity. Lyra retrieved the ancient map she had been safeguarding, spreading it out before them. "Look here," she said, pointing to a series of markings that matched the current stellar arrangement. "The map shows this exact pattern." Andromeda leaned in closer, her eyes widening with realization. The riddles Draco gave us, they weren't just riddles, were they? They were instructions for this very moment. "Precisely," Cassiopeia confirmed. "Each constellation is now positioned to reveal a piece of the path. But we must be quick. This alignment only lasts for a few hours." As they worked to decipher the celestial message, Orion noticed something unusual. The stars seemed to be pointing toward a specific direction. "See how they're creating a pathway across the sky." Lyra consulted her map again, her hands trembling with excitement. "This is unprecedented. Alignment is showing us the way to the Phoenix sanctuary. But there's something else." Her voice trailed off as she studied the patterns more closely. "What is it?" Andromeda asked, sensing the gravity in Lyra's tone. "The patterns suggest that this isn't just about finding the Phoenix," Lyra explained. "It's about understanding why the Phoenix chose to reside at the heart of our galaxy. There's a greater purpose to all of this." Cassiopeia nodded solemnly. "The dance of the constellations is revealing not just a path, but a story, the story of our galaxy's creation and its future. The Phoenix isn't just a creature of myth, it's a guardian of cosmic knowledge." As they continued to observe, the stars began to shift again, creating new patterns that seemed to pulse with ancient wisdom. Orion felt a deep connection to the cosmic dance above, as if the very universe was sharing its secrets with them. "We need to document everything," he said urgently. "Every pattern, every movement. This might be our only chance to truly understand what we're seeking." The group worked tirelessly through the night, mapping the stellar movements and comparing them to both Draco's riddles and the ancient map. Each new constellation formation brought fresh insights and deeper questions. But what happens when the alignment ends? Andromeda voiced the concern they all shared. "Will we lose this connection to the Phoenix?" Cassiopeia smiled mysteriously. "The alignment may end, but its message will remain with those who witnessed it. We've been chosen to receive this knowledge, and now we must prove worthy of it." As dawn approached and the stars began to fade, The group had filled countless pages with observations and drawings. The dance of the constellations had shown them more than just the path to the Phoenix. It had revealed the interconnected nature of their quest with the very fabric of the cosmos. "This is just the beginning," Lyra said as the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon. "The alignment has shown us the way, but the journey ahead will test everything we've learned." Orion looked at his companions, seeing the same mixture of determination and wonder in their eyes that he felt in his heart. The dance of the constellations had changed everything, but had it prepared them for what lay ahead at the heart of the Milky Way? As the last echoes of the celestial alignment faded into the darkness, Orion stood transfixed, his mind still processing the magnificent dance of stars they had witnessed. Cassiopeia's words about the alignment's significance continued to resonate within him. What we witnessed, he thought aloud, wasn't just a cosmic coincidence, was it? Lyra approached him, her ancient map glowing faintly in the starlight. "The alignment was merely the beginning, dear Orion. Look here." She pointed to a series of interconnected lines on the map that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light. "These are what we call the cosmic threads, pathways of stellar energy that connect different regions of our galaxy." Andromeda, who had been studying the horizon, called out excitedly, "Everyone, look. The stars, they're leaving trails." Indeed, as they all turned their gaze skyward, they could see faint, luminescent paths stretching across the night sky, like cosmic breadcrumbs leading them forward. "The Phoenix," Cassiopeia whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "Its influence is growing stronger. These trails are its calling card, its way of reaching out to those who seek it." She began to weave another tale, her voice taking on that familiar storyteller's cadence that always captured their attention. "Long ago, when the galaxy was young, the Phoenix created these threads of starlight to help guide lost souls home. They say that when the time is right, when those who are worthy present themselves, these paths illuminate once more." Draco, who had been silent throughout the alignment, finally spoke, his voice carrying an unusual tremor of excitement. "I've spent centuries studying these phenomena, but never have I seen them manifest so clearly. The Phoenix is not just calling, it's beckoning us specifically." As they began to follow the glowing trail, Orion couldn't help but ask, "But how can we be sure we're ready for what lies ahead? What if we're interpreting these signs wrong?" Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "That's precisely why the Phoenix reveals itself gradually, Orion. Each step along this cosmic thread tests our resolve, our understanding, and our worthiness." The group traveled through the night, following the luminescent pathway. As they walked, they began to notice subtle changes in their surroundings. The air seemed to shimmer with stardust, and occasionally they would pass through areas where time itself seemed to flow differently. Moments stretching into hours, or hours compressed into seconds. Andromeda, ever the practical explorer, kept detailed notes of these phenomena. "It's as if we're walking through the very fabric of space-time," she observed, her journal filling with sketches and observations. "Each anomaly seems to tell part of a larger story." Cassiopeia nodded in agreement. "The Phoenix influence affects more than just the visible realm. These distortions are echoes of its power, ripples in the cosmic ocean." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "But have you noticed? Each distortion seems to carry a message, a memory, or a lesson." As if in response to her words, the air before them suddenly filled with swirling patterns of light, forming images that seemed both ancient and new. Stars being born, galaxies dancing, and at the center of it all, a faint, bird-like shape composed of pure energy. "Our first true glimpse of the Phoenix," Draco breathed, his usually stoic demeanor breaking into one of pure awe. "But why show itself now? What changed?" The answer came not in words, but in a sudden understanding that seemed to fill their minds simultaneously. The Phoenix wasn't just showing them the way. It was showing them how all things in the universe were connected, bound together by these cosmic threads they now followed. Orion found himself reaching out to touch one of the glowing trails. "It's warm," he said, surprised, "like it's alive somehow." "Because it is," Lyra explained. "These threads are more than just paths of light. They're the very essence of cosmic connection, the same force that keeps planets in orbit and galaxies spinning. We're not just following a trail, we're following the lifelines of the universe itself. As they continued their journey, more questions arose. What would they find at the end of this cosmic thread? How would the Phoenix influence continue to manifest? And perhaps most importantly, were they truly ready for what awaited them? The night grew deeper, but the path ahead glowed ever brighter. With each step, they felt themselves drawing closer not just to their destination, but to an understanding of something far greater than themselves. The cosmic thread was leading them not just through space, but through the very story of creation itself. In the distance, a soft glow began to pulse, different from the steady light of the thread they followed. Something was waiting for them, something that would change their understanding of the universe forever. But first, they would need to prove themselves worthy of such knowledge. As dawn approached, Cassiopeia shared one final thought. Remember, dear friends, the cosmic thread doesn't just lead us forward. It connects us to everything that ever was and everything that will be. Our journey is but one strand in the grand tapestry of the universe. The group pressed on, their hearts full of wonder and their minds racing with possibilities. The Phoenix influence was growing stronger, and with it, the sense that they were on the verge of discovering something truly extraordinary. But what challenges would they face along this celestial path? And more importantly, would they be ready to face them together? The vast expanse of space stretched before them like an endless ocean of darkness, punctuated by the mysterious glow of distant stars. Orion stood at the helm of their celestial vessel, his eyes fixed on the looming wall of cosmic clouds ahead. The dark nebulae, massive clouds of dust and gas, blocked their path like an impenetrable fortress of shadow. "I've never seen anything quite like this," Andromeda whispered, standing beside him. Her usual adventurous spirit seemed subdued by the overwhelming presence of the cosmic barrier before them. "It's as if the galaxy itself is trying to hide something from us." Lyra approached them, her ancient map glowing faintly in her hands. "These are the shadows of nebulae," she explained, her voice carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. "They say these clouds guard some of the most profound secrets of our galaxy. But what lies beyond them?" The question hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Cassiopeia, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. "There's an old tale about these nebulae," she began, her storyteller's voice drawing everyone's attention. "They say these clouds were born from the breath of the first stars, carrying within them the memories of creation itself. But they also speak of something else." She paused, glancing at Draco, who stood apart from the group, his figure barely visible in the dim light. For the first time since joining their journey, Draco stepped forward. The mysterious figure's presence seemed to shift the very air around them. "The nebulae are more than mere clouds," he said, his voice resonating with an otherworldly quality. "They are the guardians of truth, and they test those who seek to pass through them." As if responding to his words, the dark clouds before them began to swirl and shift, creating patterns that seemed almost alive. Orion felt a shiver run down his spine as he watched the display. "What kind of test?" he asked, his curiosity overcoming his apprehension. Draco turned to face him, and for a brief moment, Orion caught a glimpse of something ancient and powerful in his eyes. "The kind that reveals one's true nature," he replied, "just as these clouds are revealing mine." The group watched in amazement as Draco's form began to shimmer, like starlight through water. His usually solid presence became fluid, merging with the darkness of space around them. "I am a child of these nebulae," he explained, his voice now carrying echoes of stellar winds. "Born from the same cosmic dust that forms these clouds, I have watched over them for eons." Andromeda gasped, her hand reaching for Orion's. "Then the legends about you, they're all true?" "Some," Draco answered, his form still shifting between solid and ethereal. "But legends, like the shadows we face, often hide deeper truths. The phoenix you seek lies beyond these clouds, but reaching it requires more than mere navigation skills." Lyra studied her map intently, a brow furrowed in concentration. "The map shows a path, but it's unlike anything I've seen before. It speaks of following the song of the stars through the darkness." Cassiopeia's eyes lit up with understanding. "Of course, Ancient stories mention that these nebulae sing with the voices of creation. But how do we hear them? Draco moved closer to the group, his presence causing the instruments around them to flutter and spark. "That's where I come in," he said. "My true nature allows me to hear the cosmic symphony that flows through these clouds. But guiding you through them will require something from each of you." "What do you mean?" Orion asked, his scientific mind struggling to reconcile the mystical nature of their situation with his astronomical knowledge. "Each of you carries a piece of the galaxy's story within you," Draco explained. Orion's curiosity, Andromeda's courage, Lyra's wisdom, and Cassiopeia's gift for storytelling. Together, they form a key that can unlock the path forward. As they stood there, contemplating Draco's words, the dark clouds before them began to pulse with a faint rhythm, like a distant heartbeat. The nebula seemed to be responding to their presence, or perhaps to Draco's revealed nature. "But there's something you're not telling us, isn't there?" Orion pressed, sensing there was more to Draco's revelation. "Why show us your true nature now?" Draco's form solidified slightly, his expression grave. "Because what lies ahead will require more than just guidance. It will require transformation. The Phoenix power affects everything around it, including me. By revealing my nature now, I prepare you for what's to come." The group fell silent, each processing the weight of this revelation. The journey through the shadows and nebulae would be more than just a physical passage. It would be a journey of transformation for them all. As they prepared to enter the dark clouds, Orion couldn't help but wonder, what other secrets did these nebulae hold? And how would their passage through them change not only their understanding of the galaxy, but also themselves? The answer lay somewhere in the darkness ahead, waiting to be discovered, as the team stood on the threshold of their greatest challenge yet. The shadows of the nebula beckoned, promising both revelation and transformation, as they prepared to take their next step into the unknown. The cosmic winds whispered through the ethereal space as Orion and his companions found themselves at a pivotal moment in their journey. The revelation of Draco's partial truth still lingered in their minds, creating an atmosphere thick with uncertainty. Before them stretched three distinct paths through the cosmic void, each promising different destinies and dangers. The ancient texts speak of these crossroads. Lyra's voice carried wisdom as she unfolded her celestial map. But they warn that choosing wrongly could lead us astray for centuries in cosmic time. Her fingers traced the shimmering lines on the map, each path glowing with a different intensity. Andromeda stepped forward, her explorer's instinct drawing her toward the leftmost path, which shimmered with a deep purple hue. "This route leads through the Star Forge. We could gather invaluable knowledge about stellar formation." Her eyes sparkled with the same enthusiasm that had marked their entire journey together. But Cassiopeia shook her head, her storyteller's intuition sensing danger. "The Star Forge is treacherous. Many have ventured there, seeking knowledge, only to be consumed by the raw power of stellar birth. Remember the tale of the lost navigators." The tension in the group began to rise as Orion found himself torn between different perspectives. The middle path glowed with a gentle blue light, seeming to beckon them forward. "What about this route?" he asked, turning to Draco, who had been unusually quiet since revealing parts of his true nature in the nebulae. Draco's response was cryptic, as always. "The safest path is not always the wisest choice, young astronomer. Sometimes the greatest discoveries lie in the heart of danger." His eyes shifted to the rightmost path, which pulsed with an ominous red glow. The tension peaked as each member of the group began advocating for their preferred route. Andromeda's voice grew passionate as she defended her choice of the Star Forge path. "We didn't come this far to play it safe. The Phoenix messages have always pointed us toward transformation and discovery. But at what cost?" Lyra countered, her usual calm demeanor showing signs of strain. "We have a responsibility not just to ourselves, but to all those who await our return with the knowledge we seek." Orion watched as his companions, who had worked so harmoniously until now, began to divide. The weight of leadership pressed heavily upon his shoulders. How could he choose between the wisdom of his mentor Lyra, the adventurous spirit of his friend Andromeda, and the mysterious guidance of Draco? As the argument intensified, Cassiopeia's voice cut through the discord of the story. In the early days of the cosmos, the first starfarers faced a similar choice. The two stood at a crossroads, their unity tested by different visions of the path forward. But do you know what they discovered? She paused, drawing everyone's attention. They learned that the true path forward wasn't about choosing the right direction. It was about choosing to move forward together. Her words hung in the space between them, and Orion felt something shift in the group's dynamic. He realized that this moment was about more than just choosing a path. It was about maintaining the bonds that had brought them this far. Perhaps, Orion suggested, his voice growing stronger with conviction, we're approaching this wrong. Instead of seeing these as three separate paths, what if they're all part of the same journey? What if the Phoenix message about renewal isn't about choosing the right path, but about finding a way to unite our different perspectives? Draco's eyes gleamed with what might have been approval. The young astronomer begins to understand. The greatest challenges often require us to think beyond simple choices. As the group pondered this perspective, strange patterns began to emerge in the cosmic dust around them. The three paths seemed to shift and dance, their energies interweaving in complex patterns. Could it be that the crossroads itself was responding to their discussion? Lyra studied her map with renewed interest. Look here, she said, pointing to a series of symbols previously unnoticed. The ancient markings don't show these as separate paths at all. They're shown as a braided river of stars. The revelation sparked a new discussion, but this time without the previous tension. Instead of arguing about which path to take, the group began exploring how they might navigate all three paths simultaneously, weaving between them like cosmic dancers. But as they worked to formulate this new approach, a distant rumbling reminded them that time was not on their side. The paths were shifting, and their window of opportunity was closing. Would their newfound understanding be enough to guide them through this challenge? And what new mysteries awaited them once they made their choice? The answer to these questions would have to wait, as Orion and his companions prepared to make their most daring move yet. Not choosing between paths, but finding a way to honor all of them. The true test would not be in the choice they made, but in how they moved forward together, their bonds strengthened rather than broken by this moment of crisis. The night air hung heavy with tension as Orion sat alone atop a weathered boulder, his telescope untouched beside him. The stars above seemed to mock him tonight, their usually comforting twinkle now feeling distant and cold. The weight of the recently discovered prophecy pressed upon his shoulders like an invisible burden. I thought I might find you here. Lyra's gentle voice broke through his solitude. She carefully made her way up the rocky outcrop, her silver hair catching the starlight. The stars speak differently to troubled minds, don't they? Orion managed a weak smile. They're speaking a language I'm not sure I want to understand anymore, Lyra. He picked up a small stone, tossing it into the darkness below. How can I be the one the prophecy speaks of? And just me. The prophecy had been revealed to them earlier that day when Cassiopeia had finally translated the ancient text hidden within her collection of celestial myths. The words still echoed in Orion's mind. When the phoenix rises from stellar ash, only the star-touched child can light the path. Did you know, Lyra began, settling beside him, that even the brightest stars sometimes doubt their own light? She pulled out her ancient map, its edges glowing faintly in the darkness. Look here at the constellation of Cygnus. Each star in its pattern once questioned its place in the grand design. Meanwhile, at the base of the hill, Andromeda paced restlessly. The team's earlier conflict about which path to take had left them all on edge. We can't stay here forever, she muttered to herself, watching Draco's silhouette in the distance. The mysterious figure hadn't spoken since the prophecy's revelation, but his presence seemed more significant than ever. Cassiopeia approached Andromeda, her book of myths clutched tightly to her chest. You know, she began, her voice carrying the weight of countless stories, every hero in history has faced this moment. The moment when destiny seems too heavy to bear. But what if we're wrong? Andromeda voiced the fear they'd all been harboring. What if Orion isn't ready? The Phoenix isn't just any celestial being, it's the keeper of cosmic balance itself. The mention of the Phoenix sent a shiver through the night air. According to the newly translated prophecy, the mythical creature held the power to either restore harmony to the Milky Way or plunge it into eternal chaos. Its awakening was imminent, and only the star-touched child could ensure it rose with benevolent purpose. Back on the boulder, Orion turned to Lyra. How can I lead us to the heart of the galaxy when I can barely trust my own decisions? Today's argument about the northern path versus the celestial river route. I froze. A true leader wouldn't freeze. Perhaps, Lyra responded thoughtfully, true leadership isn't about never doubting, about continuing despite those doubts. Tell me, why did you first fall in love with the stars? The question caught Orion off guard. His mind drifted back to his childhood, to nights spent counting constellations from his bedroom window. Because it made me feel part of something bigger, he answered softly. Something eternal. And has that changed? Before Orion could respond, Draco's voice cut through the night, surprising everyone. The usually silent figure spoke with unexpected clarity. The phoenix rises not for the fearless, but for the faithful. All eyes turned to him as he emerged from the shadows, his dark cloak rippling in the evening breeze. What do you mean? Orion called down, his curiosity momentarily overwhelming his doubt. Draco's response was cryptic yet compelling. The prophecy speaks not of a warrior, but of a seeker. Your doubt, young astronomer, is not your weakness, it is your strength. Only those who question are truly worthy of finding answers. Cassiopeia's eyes widened with sudden understanding. She quickly flipped through her book, finding a passage she'd overlooked before. Listen to this, she called out excitedly. The phoenix chooses not the perfect, but the persistent. Not the fearless, but the one who faces fear with an open heart. As these words settled over the group, something shifted in the atmosphere. The stars above seemed to pulse with new energy, and the ancient map in Lyra's hands began to glow more intensely than ever before. Andromeda climbed up to join Orion, and Lyra, her adventurous spirit rekindled. Maybe, she suggested, we've been thinking about this all wrong. The prophecy isn't a burden, it's an invitation. Orion stood slowly, his telescope catching the starlight. The doubt hadn't vanished, but somehow it felt different now, more like a companion than an enemy. An invitation to what? He asked, though something in his voice suggested he was beginning to understand. An invitation to grow, Lyra answered, unfolding the map further. To learn. To become not who you think you should be, but who you truly are. As the night deepened around them, the team began to see their journey in a new light. The conflict about their path seemed less important now than the understanding they'd gained. The Phoenix awakening was still approaching, the fate of the Milky Way still hung in the balance, but something fundamental had changed. So, Orion said finally, a hint of his old curiosity returning to his voice. Where do we go from here? The question hung in the air like a constellation waiting to be mapped. And for the first time since the prophecy's revelation, it felt less like a challenge to be feared and more like a mystery to be embraced. What none of them realized yet was that this moment of doubt and revelation would prove crucial in the challenges that lay ahead. As they prepared to continue their journey, the stars above seemed to whisper ancient secrets, and somewhere in the heart of the galaxy, the phoenix stirred in its cosmic slumber, waiting for the star-touched child, who was finally beginning to understand that his greatest perceived weakness might just be his most important strength. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon in hues of amber and rose, Orion stood atop the ancient observatory. His telescope pointed towards the fading stars. His mind wandered to the countless nights spent studying the mysterious patterns of the cosmos. But today felt different. Something in the air whispered of change, of discovery. Still searching for answers in the stars, Lyra's gentle voice broke through his contemplation. The elderly mentor approached, her silver hair catching the morning light, a worn leather-bound book clutched close to her chest. There has to be a way, Lyra, Orion replied, his voice filled with determination. The ancient texts speak of travelers who could cross the vast distances between stars. How did they do it? Lyra's eyes twinkled with knowing wisdom as she opened her book, revealing pages filled with intricate celestial maps and symbols. Perhaps, she began, the answer lies not in the physical distance, but in the connections that bind the cosmos together. Just then, Andromeda burst through the observatory door, her excitement palpable. Orion, you need to see this. She held up a crystal that seemed to capture and reflect starlight in possible ways. Cassiopeia found it in the old archives. The three rushed down to the library where Cassiopeia sat surrounded by ancient scrolls, her fingers tracing lines of text that hadn't been read in centuries. The ancients called it the stellar prism, she explained, her voice carrying the weight of countless stories. They believed it could bend starlight into bridges across the cosmos. But how? Orion asked, reaching for the crystal. As his fingers touched its surface, it pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to his touch. Have you ever wondered why some stars seem to twinkle more than others? Lyra stepped forward, her eyes wide with recognition. The ancient map. It's not just a map of stars, it's a blueprint. She quickly opened her book to a specific page, revealing a diagram that matched the crystal's pattern perfectly. The ancients left us instructions, hidden in plain sight all this time. As they studied the diagram, a shadow fell across the room. Draco stood in the doorway, his mysterious presence commanding attention. So, you found it, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The key to the celestial bridge. You knew about this? Andromeda asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. Draco moved closer, his dark cloak sweeping the floor. I've spent lifetimes protecting this knowledge, waiting for those worthy of understanding it. The celestial bridge isn't just a path through space. It's a connection between all things in the cosmos. Orion's mind raced with possibilities. Could this be the breakthrough they'd been searching for? What other secrets lay hidden in the ancient texts they'd overlooked? Cassiopeia began to recite an old legend. When the first light of creation spread across the void, it left behind threads of starlight invisible to mortal eyes, but strong enough to hold the universe together. The stellar prism was crafted to reveal these threads, to show us the way across the cosmic ocean. As if responding to her words, the crystal in Orion's hands began to pulse more intensely, projecting lines of light that connected the stars visible through the observatory's windows. The team watched in awe as a network of luminous paths appeared before them, weaving between the stars like a cosmic web. A celestial bridge, Lyra breathed, her years of study finally coming to fruition. It's been here all along, waiting for us to learn how to see it. But their wonder was interrupted by a sudden realization. The crystal's light was growing stronger, and with it came a warning hidden in Lyra's ancient texts. The bridges were temporary, appearing only when specific stars aligned. They would need to act quickly if they wanted to use this knowledge. We need to prepare, Orion declared, looking at his companions. If we're going to cross these bridges, we need to understand exactly how they work. Lyra, your knowledge of the ancient star charts will be essential. As the team began their preparations, questions burned in their minds. How far could these celestial bridges take them? What would they find on the other side? And most importantly, were they truly ready for what lay ahead? The discovery of the celestial bridge was just the beginning. As they worked to unravel its mysteries, each member of the team brought their unique skills to the fore. Lyra's wisdom guided their understanding of the ancient instructions, while Cassiopeia's stories provided crucial context for the bridge's creation. Andromeda's adventurous spirit drove them to explore the possibilities, and Draco's ancient knowledge filled in the gaps they couldn't have known existed. The Phoenix, still unseen but ever present in their thoughts, seemed closer than ever. Could these bridges lead them to the heart of the Milky Way, where the mythical creature was said to dwell? The answer lay in the stars above, and the knowledge they were only beginning to understand. As the day drew to a close, Orion stood once again at his telescope, but this time with new purpose. The stars no longer seemed distant and unreachable. They were waypoints on a journey that was about to begin. The celestial bridge had transformed their quest from an impossible dream into a tangible path forward. But what challenges would they face as they prepared to take their first steps across the cosmic void? The cosmic winds whispered through the ethereal space as Orion, Andromeda, and Lyra stood at the edge of the newly discovered celestial bridge. The shimmering pathway stretched before them like stardust woven into silk, a testament to their recent breakthrough in crossing the vast distances of space. But something was different now. There was a palpable energy in the air, an ancient presence that seemed to call to them from the very heart of the galaxy. Do you feel that? Orion asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His hand trembled slightly as he reached out, fingers brushing through the strange, warm current of energy that surrounded them. It's like the stars themselves are trying to speak to us. Andromeda nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered before. Lyra, could this be what we've been searching for? Lyra stood silent for a moment, her weathered hands clutching the ancient map that had guided them thus far. This, she said finally, is the touch of the Phoenix. Her words carried weight, echoing with centuries of wisdom passed down through generations of stargazers. As if responding to Lyra's recognition, the energy around them intensified, taking on a warm golden hue. Cassiopeia, who had been documenting their journey through her stories, stepped forward with reverence. The ancient texts speak of this moment, she said, her voice filled with awe. When the Phoenix reaches out to those worthy of its secrets, it begins with a whisper that grows into a song of creation itself. Suddenly, the space around them began to shift and transform. The team found themselves enveloped in a cocoon of stellar light, and their consciousness expanded beyond the physical realm. What followed was a vision so profound that it would forever change their understanding of the cosmos. Through the Phoenix energy, they witnessed the beating heart of the Milky Way, a massive black hole surrounded by swirling stars and cosmic matter. But it was more than just a celestial object. It was alive with purpose, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed to conduct the very dance of the galaxies. It's showing us the truth. Draco's voice emerged from the shadows, startling the group. The mysterious figure had appeared without warning, drawn by the Phoenix core. The core isn't just a place. It's the source of all the stories ever told about our galaxy. As the vision continued, they saw cycles of stellar birth and death, the eternal dance of creation and destruction that the Phoenix embodied. Each explosion of a dying star carried within it the seeds of new worlds, new possibilities, new life. The team understood then why the Phoenix had chosen this moment to reveal itself. They were witnessing the galaxy's own story of renewal. But why us? Andromeda asked, her voice thick with emotion. Why show us these secrets now? The answer came not in words but in feelings and images. They saw themselves as part of a greater pattern, chosen not by chance, but by the very forces that shaped the cosmos. The Phoenix energy showed them glimpses of ancient civilizations that had sought these same truths, their knowledge preserved in the very starlight that reached Earth. Orion felt a deep connection to every star and planet they saw, understanding now that his lifelong fascination with the cosmos had been more than mere curiosity. It had been the Phoenix calling to him all along. The stories, he realized, turning to Cassiopeia, all your tales about the galaxy's creation, they weren't just myths, were they? Cassiopeia smiled knowingly. Stories are how we make sense of the greatest mysteries, M1. The Phoenix knows this, and now it's sharing its own story with us. As the vision began to fade, Lyra's map began to glow with new markings, revealing pathways that had been invisible before. The Phoenix isn't just showing us the past, she explained, her eyes scanning the newly revealed routes. It's showing us the way forward. But with this new knowledge came a sobering revelation. They weren't the only ones seeking the Phoenix power. In their shared vision, they glimpsed shadows moving through the cosmos, forces that would use the Phoenix energy for purposes far removed from its intended role of renewal and rebirth. We have to protect this knowledge, Draco declared, speaking with unexpected urgency. The Phoenix has trusted us with these secrets, but others would abuse them. The team looked at each other, understanding the weight of responsibility that had been placed upon them. The Phoenix whispers had changed everything. Their quest was no longer just about discovery, but about becoming guardians of one of the galaxy's most profound mysteries. What do we do now? Andromeda asked, looking to Lyra for guidance. The mentor studied the newly illuminated map, her expression both worried and determined. We'd follow the Phoenix path, she said firmly. But we must be cautious. The closer we get to the galaxy's core, the more dangerous our journey becomes. As the last traces of the vision faded, questions burned in their minds. What other secrets would the Phoenix reveal? Who were these shadowy forces they had glimpsed? And most importantly, were they truly ready for the responsibility they had been given? The celestial bridge beneath their feet seemed to pulse with new energy, as if responding to their thoughts. Their journey had taken an unexpected turn. But one thing was certain: they were now part of something far greater than themselves, chosen by the Phoenix to protect the very heart of the Milky Way. The revelation of Phoenix energy still lingered in the air like stardust, its warmth coursing through the veins of our adventurers. Orion's hands trembled slightly as he tried to make sense of the vision they had all shared, the beating heart of the galaxy pulsing with an ancient rhythm that seemed to echo through their very beings. "I've never felt anything quite like it," Andromeda whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "It's as if the galaxy itself was trying to communicate with us." She turned to Lyra, seeking answers in her mentor's knowing eyes. Lyra stood quietly, her weathered hands clutching the ancient map, which now seemed to shimmer with a new intensity. "What we experienced wasn't just a vision," she explained, her voice steady but filled with reverence. "It was a message, a call that few have ever received." Cassiopeia, who had been unusually silent since their shared experience, suddenly spoke up. "The stories, all the legends I've collected over the years, they're starting to make sense now." She began to pace, her storyteller's mind connecting countless threads of lore. "But there's something missing, isn't there? Something about Draco." As if summoned by the mention of his name, a shadow moved at the edge of their gathering. Draco had emerged from the darkness, his usually mysterious demeanor now carrying a weight of inevitability. The group fell silent, sensing that a crucial moment had arrived. "You felt it now, haven't you?" Draco's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried clearly to each of them. The Phoenix call, the same call I heard centuries ago. Orion stepped forward, his astronomical knowledge seeking to make sense of this revelation. Centuries. But how is that possible? Draco's eyes seemed to reflect the very stars they had spent so long studying. "I am bound to the Phoenix, just as the Phoenix is bound to the galaxy itself. We are two halves of the same cosmic balance. Creation and preservation, change and constancy." "You're saying you're immortal?" Andromeda asked, her explorer's curiosity piqued. "Not immortal," Draco corrected gently. "Eternal. There's a difference. The Phoenix represents the endless cycle of renewal, the burning away of the old to make way for the new. I represent the preservation of knowledge, the keeping of cosmic memory through each cycle." Lyra's eyes widened with understanding. "The map? It's not just a map of the galaxy, is it? It's a record of these cycles." Draco nodded, approaching the group. "Each marking, each constellation pattern shows not just where stars are, but when they were born, when they died, and when they will be reborn. The galaxy breathes, my friends, in cycles so vast that civilizations rise and fall between each breath." Cassiopeia's voice trembled with excitement. "Stories I've collected, their memories, aren't they? Echoes of previous cycles." "Indeed," Draco confirmed. "Your role as a storyteller is more crucial than you knew. You keep the emotional memory of the cosmos alive through your tales." Orion's mind raced with questions. "But why show us now? Why reveal all of this?" Draco's expression grew serious. "Because the current cycle is different. The balance is shifting in ways I've never seen before. The Phoenix energy is changing, and with it, the very fabric of our galaxy. Is that dangerous?" Andromeda asked, voicing the concern they all felt. "It could be," Draco admitted. "Or it could be the most important transformation our galaxy has ever undergone. That's why the Phoenix called to you all. Each of you has a role to play in what's coming." Lyra studied the map with new understanding. "The patterns, they're showing convergence, aren't they? Something unprecedented?" "Yes," Draco confirmed. "For the first time in countless cycles, the Phoenix is seeking not just renewal, but evolution. And it needs help, our help, to guide this change." The group fell silent, absorbing the weight of this revelation. The mystery of Draco that had intrigued them for so long had transformed into something far more significant than they had imagined. They weren't just explorers anymore. they were now custodians of cosmic change itself. What do we need to do? Orion asked, his voice steady despite the enormity of what they faced. Draco looked at each of them in turn, his gaze holding centuries of wisdom. First, you need to understand the true nature of the balance we maintain. The Phoenix isn't just a creature of renewal, it's the embodiment of cosmic hope. And hope, my friends, is what we'll need most in the days to come. As night deepened around them, the stars seemed to shine with new significance. The truth of Draco's role had been revealed, but with it came more questions than answers. What was the nature of this unprecedented change? How would they help guide it? And most importantly, were they ready for the responsibility that had been placed upon them? The answers lay somewhere in the heart of the galaxy, where the Phoenix waited, its energy pulsing with the promise of transformation. But first, they would need to understand the delicate dance between preservation and change, between Draco's eternal vigilance and the Phoenix's endless renewal. Their journey was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. The night sky blazed with an unprecedented brilliance as Orion, Andromeda, Lyra, and Cassiopeia stood atop the ancient observatory. Following their revelation about Draco's connection to the Phoenix, they were about to witness something extraordinary. A celestial dance that occurred once in a millennium. "Look there," Lyra whispered, pointing her weathered finger toward a cluster of stars that seemed to pulse with life. The dance is beginning. Orion felt his heart race as he observed the stars through his telescope. "I've never seen anything like this before. The stars, they're moving in perfect harmony." Indeed, the celestial bodies above were performing an intricate ballet, their movements telling a story of cosmic proportions. Andromeda, who had been documenting everything in her journal, gasped as she noticed patterns emerging in the stellar choreography. "Do you see how they're all rotating around a central point?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. "It's just like what Draco told us about the galaxy's heart." Cassiopeia stepped forward, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "In all my years of collecting stories, I never thought I'd witness the tale of creation itself. This dance, it's the very movement that keeps our galaxy alive." As they watched, Lyra began explaining the significance of what they were seeing. "Every star in our galaxy, including our sun, performs this dance. We're all moving together, circling the galactic center where the Phoenix resides. But how does it all stay in perfect balance?" Orion wondered aloud, adjusting his telescope to capture more detail. Shouldn't some stars drift away or collapse into each other? The answer came from an unexpected source. Draco's voice emerged from the shadows, causing them all to turn. "The dance you're witnessing is governed by forces beyond our comprehension. Gravity, dark matter, and something even more mysterious. The breath of the Phoenix itself." The group listened intently as Draco continued to share his knowledge. He explained how the galaxy's rotation wasn't just a simple circular motion, but a complex spiral pattern that maintained perfect equilibrium. Each star played its part, like musicians in cosmic orchestra. But what happens when a star steps out of rhythm? Andromeda asked, her curiosity piqued. Draco's eyes gleamed mysteriously. That's where the true magic lies. The galaxy has its own way of correcting such disruptions. Sometimes, these corrections lead to the birth of new stars, other times to their dramatic end. As the night progressed, they observed how different parts of the galaxy moved at varying speeds. Lyra explained that stars closer to the center completed their orbital dance faster than those in the outer regions, creating a magnificent spiral pattern over millions of years. "It's like watching time itself unfold," Cassiopeia mused, already composing a new story in her mind. Each star tells its own tale, yet they're all part of this grand cosmic performance. Orion couldn't help but feel humbled by the spectacle. We're so small in comparison to all this, yet we're part of something so magnificent. How many other secrets does our galaxy hold? The question hung in the air as they continued to observe. The dance revealed patterns they had never noticed before. Waves of stellar movement, ribbons of stardust, and the subtle push and pull of invisible forces. The Phoenix maintains this balance, Draco revealed, but even its power has limits. That's why understanding this dance is crucial for what's to come. These words sparked a new series of questions in Orian's mind. What role did the Phoenix truly play in this cosmic ballet? And more importantly, what did Draco mean by what's to come? As dawn approached, the celestial dance began to fade from view, but its impact remained etched in their memories. They had witnessed something few humans ever had, the living, breathing movement of their galaxy. This is just the beginning, Lyra said softly. What we've learned tonight will guide us in our journey ahead. Andromeda nodded, closing her journal. The galaxy's dance has shown us that everything is connected. Each movement, each star, each one of us. We're all part of this grand design. As they prepared to leave the observatory, Orion couldn't shake the feeling that this experience had changed them all. They had witnessed not just an astronomical phenomenon, but fundamental truth about the universe itself. The question now was, how would this knowledge help them in their ultimate quest to reach the Phoenix? And what other celestial secrets awaited them as they ventured deeper into the mysteries of the Milky Way? The answers, like the stars themselves, remained just out of reach, dancing on the edge of discovery. As the cosmic dance of stars continued to mesmerize the group, Cassiopeia stepped forward from the shadows, her silver hair gleaming under the starlight. The time had come for her to reveal her true purpose, not just as a storyteller, but as the appointed keeper of light, guardian of the galaxy's most profound secrets. What you witnessed in the galactic dance, Cassiopeia began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, is merely the surface of a deeper truth. She turned to Orion, whose eyes sparkled with curiosity. You've been seeking answers about the Milky Way's mysteries, haven't you, young astronomer? Orion nodded eagerly, while Andromeda moved closer, equally intrigued. Lyra, who had known Cassiopeia for years, smiled knowingly. She had been waiting for this moment. For generations, Cassiopeia continued, my lineage has protected the sacred knowledge of the cosmos. We are more than storytellers. We are the guardians of light itself. She reached into her flowing robes and withdrew a crystal that seemed to contain swirling stardust within. But why keep such knowledge hidden? Andromeda asked, her explorer's instincts pushing her to understand more. Cassiopeia's eyes softened as she replied, knowledge, like light itself, must be revealed at the right moment, in the right measure. Too much too soon can blind rather than illuminate. She began sharing ancient tales that weren't just stories. They were keys to understanding the universe's fundamental principles. She spoke how the first keepers of light learned to read the galaxy's messages in the movement of stars, how they discovered patterns that predicted cosmic events, and how they learned to communicate with the very essence of the universe. The Milky Way isn't just our home galaxy, she explained. It's a living entity, constantly evolving, breathing, creating. The dance you witnessed, it's the galaxy's heartbeat. Orion's mind raced with questions. But how does this connect to our search for the Phoenix? And what about Draco's role in all of this? Cassiopeia smiled mysteriously. Now we're approaching the heart of the matter. The Phoenix and Draco are not separate from this knowledge. They are integral to it. You see, the Phoenix represents the galaxy's cycle of renewal, while Draco, she paused, building anticipation. Draco is the current guardian of the galaxy's heart. As night deepened around them, Cassiopeia revealed ancient star maps that showed hidden pathways through the cosmos, routes that only the keepers of light knew about. She taught them about the sacred geometry of the universe, how certain star patterns formed gateways to other dimensions, and how the light from distant stars carried messages from the past. But remember, she warned, with this knowledge comes great responsibility. The galaxy's secrets must be protected, not for the sake of secrecy, but for the safety of all who dwell within it. Lyra stepped forward, adding her wisdom to Cassiopeia's teachings. I've watched you grow, Orion, and you too, Andromeda. You're ready for this knowledge, but are you prepared for what it might mean? The question hung in the air like stardust, challenging them to consider the weight of their journey's true purpose. Cassiopeia continued sharing throughout the night, teaching them ancient methods of stellar navigation, the language of light itself, and the sacred rituals that kept the galaxy's energy in balance. She revealed how the Keepers of Light had long served as bridges between the cosmic forces and the mortal realm. But why us? Andromeda asked, voicing the question that had been on everyone's mind. Why reveal these secrets now? Cassiopeia's expression grew serious. Because the galaxy is entering a new phase, one that requires new guardians. The old ways must be passed on, but they must also evolve. You've been chosen, each of you, to play a part in this cosmic transition. She turned to Orion, whose early curiosity about the stars had set their entire journey in motion. Your quest to understand the Milky Way wasn't by chance, Orion. You were called by the galaxy itself. As dawn approached, Cassiopeia shared one final revelation. The knowledge I shared tonight is just the beginning. The true test lies ahead, where you'll need to use this wisdom to find both Draco and the Phoenix. But remember, the greatest secret of all is that the light you seek has always been within you. The group sat in contemplative silence as the first rays of sunlight began to pierce the horizon. They had received not just knowledge, but a sacred trust, a responsibility to protect and preserve the galaxy's light for future generations. What would they do with this newfound wisdom? How would it guide their continuing journey? And most importantly, were they truly ready for the challenges that lay ahead in their quest to reach the heart of the Milky Way? As if reading their thoughts, Cassiopeia added one final piece of wisdom. The path of light is never straight, but it always leads home. Trust in what you've learned, but more importantly, trust in yourselves. The crisp night air carried whispers of anticipation as Andromeda stood at the helm of their expedition, her eyes gleaming with determination. The revelations from Cassiopeia about the ancient secrets of the galaxy had set in motion a chain of events that would forever change their understanding of the cosmos. But what mysteries awaited them in the depths of this journey? The star map we seek isn't just any ordinary chart, Andromeda explained to Orion as they prepared for their expedition. According to Cassiopeia's teachings, it's said to reveal pathways through the Milky Way that even the most seasoned astronomers have never discovered. Can you imagine what that could mean for our understanding of the universe? Lyra, who had been quietly observing their preparation, stepped forward with her ancient map in hand. Remember what I taught you both about the hidden patterns in the stars? This journey will test everything you've learned. Her words carried the weight of centuries of astronomical knowledge, making both Andromeda and Orion pause to consider the magnitude of their undertaking. As they ventured deeper into their expedition, Andromeda's expertise in navigation became increasingly vital. She had spent years studying the movement of celestial bodies, but nothing had prepared her for what they were about to discover. Look there, she pointed to a peculiar arrangement of stars that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly rhythm. Have you ever seen anything like it, Orion? The group found themselves facing unexpected challenges as they followed the stellar patterns. Each step forward revealed new questions. Why did certain stars seem to move in ways that defied known astronomical laws? What was the significance of the recurring patterns they kept encountering? Cassiopeia's words from their previous meeting echoed in their minds. The galaxy holds secrets that can only be understood by those who learn to see with both their eyes and their hearts. These words took on new meaning as Andromeda led them through a series of astronomical phenomena that seemed to defy explanation. During their journey, they encountered a series of ancient markers, celestial signposts that appeared to have been left by previous explorers. Andromeda's keen eye for detail proved invaluable as she decoded these cosmic breadcrumbs. These markers, she explained, they're not just random arrangements. They're telling us a story about the galaxy's past, and possibly its future. The breakthrough came when they least expected it. While studying a particularly unusual constellation formation, Andromeda noticed something that everyone else had overlooked. The stars aren't just forming patterns, she exclaimed, her voice trembling with excitement. They're forming a map within a map. This discovery led them to an ancient observatory hidden away in a location that perfectly aligned with specific stellar configurations. Inside, they'd found what they had been searching for, a star map unlike anything they had ever seen before. But what made this map so special? And why had it been hidden away with such care? The map revealed itself to be more than just a guide to the stars. It was a key to understanding the very fabric of the Milky Way itself. Intricate patterns and symbols covered its surface, some resembling the mysterious markings Draco had once mentioned in passing. Could this be the connection they had been seeking? As Andromeda studied the map more closely, she began to notice something extraordinary. These patterns, she said, tracing them with her finger, they match the stories Phoenix told about the galaxy's heart. But there's something more here, something we're still missing. The discovery raised as many questions as it answered. What was the true purpose of this star map? How did it connect to the knowledge Cassiopeia had shared with them? And most intriguingly, what role would it play in their ultimate quest to understand the mysteries of the Milky Way? Orion watched as his friend pieced together the puzzle before them. Andromeda, he said thoughtfully, do you think this is what Draco was hinting at all along? The key to understanding the galaxy's greatest secrets. Their discovery would prove to be just the beginning of an even greater adventure. The star map they had found wasn't just a guide to celestial bodies. It was a gateway to understanding the very essence of the cosmos itself. But as they would soon learn, some discoveries come with their own set of challenges and responsibilities. The journey had changed them all, especially Andromeda. Her role as an explorer had evolved into something more. She had become a keeper of ancient cosmic knowledge, much like Cassiopeia before her. But what would they do with this newfound knowledge? And how would it affect their ongoing quest to understand the mysteries of the Milky Way? As the act drew to a close, the group found themselves standing at a crossroads. The star map they had discovered held tremendous potential, but it also posed new questions that would need to be answered. What other secrets lay hidden in the vast expanse of space? And were they truly ready for what they might find? The stars seemed to twinkle with renewed brightness, as if acknowledging the significance of their discovery. But in the vastness of the cosmos, this was just one step in their continuing journey to understand the greatest mystery of all, the Milky Way itself. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon, Orion and his companions stood before an ancient structure unlike anything they had encountered before. The discovery of the hidden star map by Andromeda had led them to this remarkable place, a vast circular pool of what appeared to be liquid starlight, nestled within a crater of crystalline rock. The cosmic mirror, Lyra whispered, her voice filled with reverence. I never thought I'd live to see it with my own eyes. She reached into her weathered satchel, carefully withdrawing the ancient texts she carried throughout their journey. Andromeda stepped forward, her recent triumph with the star map giving her a newfound confidence. The legends speak of this place, she said, kneeling beside the ethereal pool. They say it shows not just reflections, but echoes of the galaxy's memory. Orion felt a familiar tingle of excitement course through him. How does it work? He asked, his astronomer's mind already racing with possibilities. How can a pool show us the past? Cassiopeia, who had been unusually quiet since their arrival, finally spoke. It's not about what we see, young Orion, but what the universe wants us to understand. She began to weave her tale, as she always did when important lessons needed to be shared. Long ago, when the first stargazers looked up at the night sky, they realized that the light reaching their eyes was ancient. They were seeing the past of distant stars. The group gathered around the pool's edge, and as they did, the liquid starlight began to ripple without any wind to disturb it. Draco, who had maintained his distance until now, stepped forward with unusual urgency. Wait, he cautioned, his voice carrying an edge of both warning and wonder. The mirror shows what we need to see, not necessarily what we want to see. Are you prepared for that? Before anyone could respond, the surface of the pool erupted into a brilliant display of light and color. The group watched in amazement as images began to form in the cosmic reflection. They saw the Milky Way as it had been millions of years ago, its spiral arms dancing in a different configuration than they knew today. Look there, Andromeda pointed excitedly. The galactic center, it's different somehow. Orion leaned forward, his trained eye catching details others might miss. The stars, they're moving in patterns we've never seen before. But why is the mirror showing us this? Lyra's eyes widened with understanding. The Phoenix, she breathed. We're seeing the time before the Phoenix made its nest in the galaxy's heart. As they watched, the images shifted and changed, showing them civilizations that had risen and fallen among the stars, cosmic events that had shaped their galaxy, and patterns of stellar movement that challenged everything they thought they knew about the Milky Way's history. Cassiopeia began to record everything they witnessed, her storyteller's mind capturing each detail. "Do you see now?" she asked. "The galaxy isn't just a collection of stars. It's a living history, a story that's still being written." But it was Draco who made the most startling observation. The patterns, he said, pointing to recurring formations in the cosmic dance they witnessed. They're not random. They're a message left by those who came before. The revelation sent a shock through the group. Could it be that ancient civilizations had deliberately arranged stellar movements to communicate with future observers? And if so, what were they trying to tell them? As they continued to watch, the images began to focus on a specific region of space, one that seemed to pulse with an unusual energy. "That's where we need to go next," Orion declared, his voice firm with conviction. "Whatever the Phoenix is protecting, whatever secrets lie at the galaxy's heart, the answer is there." Andromeda pulled out the star map she had discovered, laying it beside the cosmic mirror. "Look," she exclaimed, "the patterns in the mirror match the markings on the map. We weren't just finding our way, we were following an ancient path." As the day wore on, the team remained transfixed by the cosmic display, each revelation leading to new questions, each answer unveiling deeper mysteries. The cosmic mirror had shown them more than just the galaxy's past. It had given them a glimpse of their own place in its vast story. But with this knowledge came responsibility. They now understood that their journey was part of something far greater than themselves. The question was no longer just about reaching the Phoenix or understanding the galaxy's secrets. It was about their role in a cosmic drama that had been unfolding for millions of years. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the mirror's surface, Orion looked at his companions. They had all been changed by what they'd witnessed, but their quest was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was only beginning. "What we've seen here," Lyra said finally, closing her ancient texts, "is both a gift and a challenge. The galaxy's past has shown us the way forward, but are we ready for where that path might lead?" The question hung in the air as the stars began to appear overhead, each one now holding new meaning for the observers below. The cosmic mirror had revealed their history, but their future remained unwritten, waiting to be discovered in the vast expanse of space above. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy as Orion and his companions stood transfixed, their eyes locked on the spectacle unfolding before them. After witnessing the galaxy's history in the cosmic mirror, none of them were prepared for what came next. The very fabric of space seemed to ripple and fold, creating patterns that defied comprehension. "Do you feel that?" Andromeda whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The temperature around them began to rise, not uncomfortably, but noticeably enough to make them all aware that something extraordinary was about to happen. Lyra stepped forward, her ancient map glowing with an intensity they had never seen before. "The prophecies spoke of this moment," she said, her eyes scanning the illuminated parchment. "When past meets present, and the eternal guardian emerges." Suddenly, a burst of golden light erupted from the center of their gathering, causing everyone to shield their eyes. As the brightness dimmed to a manageable level, they found themselves face to face with what they had only heard about in legends, the Phoenix. The creature was magnificent beyond description. Its feathers a living flame that shifted between hues of gold, crimson, and azure. Each movement created ripples of light that danced across the cosmic void around them. But what struck Orion most were its eyes, ancient, knowing, and filled with both wisdom and challenge. Cassiopeia, who had shared countless stories about this mythical being, found herself speechless for the first time. The reality before her far surpassed any tale she had ever told. When she finally found her voice, it was barely above a whisper. "All the stories, they barely captured a fraction of your magnificence." The Phoenix appearance, however, wasn't merely for show. As it regarded each of them in turn, Draco stepped forward, his usually mysterious demeanor replaced by one of recognition. "You've been waiting for us," he stated and not asked. The Phoenix response came not in words, but in images and feelings that flooded their minds. It showed them visions of the galaxy's creation, of stars being born and dying, of civilizations rising and falling, of the eternal dance of cosmic forces that kept everything in balance. But with these visions came a challenge. The Phoenix revealed that their journey so far had been preparation for this moment. The team would need to prove their worthiness to receive the knowledge they sought about the Milky Way's deepest secrets. What must we do? Orion asked, stepping forward, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. The Phoenix response manifested as a series of trials, each designed to test not just their individual strengths, but their ability to work as one. They would need to demonstrate wisdom, courage, compassion, and understanding, not as separate qualities, but as interconnected aspects of the same whole. Andromeda reached for Orion's hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "We've come too far to turn back now," she said, her eyes reflecting the determination they all felt. The first trial began without warning. The space around them transformed into a cosmic labyrinth, with paths made of stardust and walls of pure energy. But this was no ordinary maze. Each choice they made would affect not just their path forward, but the very nature of space around them. Lyra studied the patterns, her years of experience helping her see connections others might miss. The paths, she observed, they're changing based on our thoughts and intentions. We need to move as one, think as one. As they navigated the labyrinth, each member of the team found their role. Cassiopeia's stories helped them understand the symbolic meaning of their challenges. Draco's mysterious knowledge proved invaluable in decoding the cosmic patterns they encountered. Andromeda's exploratory instincts helped them avoid dead ends, while Orion's astronomical knowledge helped them read the star patterns that guided their way. But the Phoenix test went deeper than physical challenges. Each step forced them to confront their own doubts, fears, and limitations. They had to learn to trust not just each other, but themselves. "Remember what we saw in the cosmic mirror," Orion called out as they faced a particularly challenging obstacle. The galaxy's history showed us that everything is connected. We're not just individuals trying to solve a puzzle, we're part of something much larger. This realization seemed to please the Phoenix, whose presence remained constant throughout their trials. Its fiery form would occasionally shift and change, sometimes appearing as a guiding light, other times as a challenging obstacle, but always pushing them to grow beyond their perceived limitations. As they progressed, the team began to understand that the ultimate test wasn't about proving their worth to the Phoenix. It was about proving it to themselves. Each challenge they overcame brought them closer to understanding the true nature of the galaxy they had spent so long studying. The question that hung in the air, though, was whether they would be able to complete all the trials before them. And more importantly, would they be ready for the knowledge that awaited them if they succeeded? The Phoenix watched, its eternal eyes holding secrets yet to be revealed, as our heroes pressed forward into their greatest challenge yet, the fate of their quest, and perhaps the understanding of the galaxy itself hung in the balance of their next moves. The luminous trail left by Phoenix manifestation still lingered in the sky as Orion, Andromeda, Lyra, and Cassiopeia stood in awe, their hearts racing with the realization that their journey was approaching its climactic moment. The path to the galactic center now lay before them, more tangible than ever before. "I never thought we'd make it this far," Andromeda whispered, her voice trembling with both excitement and apprehension. The heart of the galaxy, it almost doesn't feel real. Orion clutched the ancient map that had guided them throughout their journey, its edges worn from countless consultations. "Lyra, according to your teachings, what awaits us at the center?" Lyra's eyes reflected the starlight as she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. "The center holds the very essence of creation itself. It's where all stellar paths converge, where the boundaries between myth and reality blur. But reaching it," she paused, "will test us in ways we cannot imagine." As they began their approach, the sky transformed around them. The familiar constellations seemed to shift and dance, creating patterns that defied conventional astronomy. Cassiopeia, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. "There's an old tale," she began, a storyteller's voice drawing everyone closer, about those who attempted to reach the galactic center. They say the closer you get, the more you must confront your deepest truths. The heart of the galaxy mirrors the heart of the seeker. The group's path led them through what appeared to be a corridor of stars, each one burning brighter than any they'd encountered before. The gravitational forces grew stronger, making each step forward feel like walking through deep water. Suddenly, Draco emerged from the shadows, his presence no longer mysterious but reassuring. "The center calls to you all," he said, his voice resonating with unusual warmth. "But remember, what you seek may not be what you find." As they pressed forward, each member of the team began experiencing personal challenges. Orion found his scientific certainties challenged by phenomena that defied explanation. How could he trust his observations where reality itself seemed to bend around them? Andromeda's adventurous spirit faced its greatest test as the path forward became increasingly unpredictable. "It's like the galaxy itself is alive," she observed, watching as stellar streams moved like rivers around them. Lyra's ancient map began to glow with an inner light, revealing new layers of information they hadn't seen before. The closer they got to the center, the more complex the map became, as if responding to their proximity to the heart of the galaxy. Cassiopeia's stories started manifesting around them, their tales taking physical form in the cosmic dust and gas. "The stories," she gasped, "they're not just stories anymore. They're real. They've always been real." The presence of Phoenix, that are not physically visible, could be felt growing stronger. Its energy pulsed through the fabric of space itself, guiding them forward while simultaneously testing their resolve. "Look," Orion called out, pointing ahead. Before them loomed what appeared to be a massive vortex of light and energy, the galactic center itself. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying, a swirling maelstrom of cosmic forces that seemed to call to them on a fundamental level. But reaching it wouldn't be simple. Between them and their goal lay what appeared to be a barrier of pure energy, shimmering with colors they had no names for. "This is it," Draco announced, stepping forward. "The final threshold. Beyond this point, there's no turning back." The team gathered in a circle, each facing their own doubts and fears. The journey had changed them all. But were they ready for what lay ahead? The heart of the galaxy pulsed before them, its mysteries both inviting and intimidating. "Whatever happens," Orion said, looking at each of his companions in turn, "we face it together. Everything we've learned, everything we've become, it's all led us to this moment." Andromeda reached out and took his hand, and soon they all stood connected in a circle. The energy barrier before them responded to their unity, beginning to shimmer and shift. But as they prepared to take the final step, a new challenge emerged, one that would require everything they had learned and more. The heart of the galaxy seemed to speak to each of them individually, presenting visions of both possibility and warning. What secrets would they uncover at the galaxy's core? What truths about themselves would they have to face? And most importantly, were they truly ready for the answers they sought? As the act drew to a close, the team stood on the precipice of their greatest challenge yet, the barrier before them beginning to part like a cosmic curtain. The heart of the galaxy beckoned, promising answers to questions they hadn't even thought to ask, while Phoenix energy pulsed around them like a heartbeat, reminding them that their journey was far from over. What awaited them beyond the barrier? What final trials would they face in their quest to understand the galaxy's greatest mysteries? The answers lay ahead in the very heart of the Milky Way itself. The air crackled with anticipation as Orion, Andromeda, Lyra, Cassiopeia, and Draco stood in a perfect circle beneath the star-studded sky. The journey that had brought them to this pivotal moment seemed both endless and fleeting, like starlight traveling across the vast expanse of space. "We've come so far," Orion whispered, his voice carrying the weight of their shared experiences. "But how do we bring harmony to something as vast as the galaxy itself?" Lyra stepped forward, her ancient map glowing with an otherworldly light. "The answer has always been within us," she said, tracing the intricate patterns that marked their journey. "Just as stars don't shine alone, we must combine our strengths." Cassiopeia's eyes sparkled with understanding as she began to weave her words into the night air. "There's an old tale," she began, her voice melodious and clear, "about how the first stars learned to dance together. They were once scattered and lonely, each burning in isolation until they discover the power of constellation. Andromeda, who had been studying the patterns in Lyra's map, suddenly exclaimed, "Look, the paths we've taken, they're not random at all. They form a symphony." The group gathered closer, their shadows merging into one as they examined the map. Indeed, their journey had created a pattern similar to musical notes, each location they'd visited representing a different tone in a cosmic melody. But what about the Phoenix? Draco spoke, breaking his usual silence. "We've reached the center, but the Guardian of Renewal remains hidden." The mention of the Phoenix brought a hush over the group. They had faced countless challenges to reach this point. Navigating through stellar storms, decoding ancient celestial messages, and overcoming their own doubts. But this final task required something more than individual courage or wisdom. Remember what we learned about the Milky Way's creation? Orion asked, his mind racing with possibilities. It wasn't formed by a single event, but by countless stars and cosmic forces working in perfect harmony. Cassiopeia's eyes lit up with recognition. Yes, the old stories speak of a song, a celestial harmony that could awaken the Phoenix, but it required voices from all corners of the galaxy. We represent those corners, Andromeda realized, looking at each of her companions. Orion's curiosity, Lyra's wisdom, Cassiopeia's stories, Draco's mysteries, and my spirit of exploration were like different notes in the same song. As understanding dawned, the air around them began to shimmer with stardust. Lyra's map floated from her hands, its light spreading to encompass them all. Each person began to glow with a different color. Orion in deep blue, Andromeda in purple, Lyra in silver, Cassiopeia in gold, and Draco in emerald. But how do we create this harmony? Orion wondered aloud. We're not musicians of the cosmos. Lyra smiled gently. We don't need to be. What we need is to share our true essence, what drives each of us in our quest for understanding the galaxy. One by one, they began to share their deepest connections to the stars. Orion spoke of his endless wonder at the universe's mysteries. Andromeda described the joy of discovery that fueled her explorations. Lyra revealed how the ancient knowledge she carried connected past to present. Cassiopeia shared how stories could bridge the gap between the known and unknown. And Draco, finally opening his heart, spoke of the balance between light and shadow in all things. As they spoke, their words began to transform into pure light, weaving together in the air above them. The lights danced and swirled, creating patterns that matched the map's musical notations. A soft humming filled the air, growing stronger with each passing moment. Listen, Andromeda gasped. The galaxy, it's singing with us. Indeed, the stars themselves seemed to pulse in rhythm with their unified energy. The harmony grew stronger, more complex, as if every celestial body in the Milky Way was joining their chorus. But would it be enough to awaken the Phoenix? As the cosmic symphony reached its crescendo, the group held their breath, their hearts beating in unison with the pulse of the galaxy. They had learned that true harmony wasn't about perfect alignment or identical notes. It was about different voices coming together to create something greater than themselves. The air around them began to warm, and a familiar sensation of renewal swept through their bodies. Had they succeeded, what would the Phoenix awakening mean for the galaxy? And more importantly, how would this moment of perfect unity change them all? As these questions hung in the star-filled air, one thing became clear. Their journey had transformed them from individual seekers into a constellation of their own, bound together by something stronger than gravity itself. The true heart of the galaxy, they realized, wasn't a place, but a state of being where all things existed in harmony. The air crackled with anticipation as Orion, Andromeda, and their companions stood at the threshold of what appeared to be an impossible task. Traversing the tumultuous heart of the Milky Way, the galactic core loomed before them, a swirling mass of stars and cosmic energy that both beckoned and warned. I never imagined we'd actually make it this far, Andromeda whispered, her voice filled with equal parts excitement and trepidation. She clutched the ancient stellar compass that had guided them through countless light years of space. Orion nodded, his eyes fixed on the spectacular view before them. All those nights studying the stars from Earth. And now we're here, about to attempt what no one has ever done before. He turned to Lyra, who stood silently observing the cosmic dance before them. What do you think, Mentor? Are we ready? Lyra's weathered face bore a knowing expression as she withdrew an ancient scroll from her robes. The old texts speak of this moment, but reading about it and experiencing it are two very different things. She unfurled the scroll, revealing intricate patterns that seemed to mirror the swirling cosmos before them. The Great Crossing isn't just about physical navigation, it's a test of spirit. Cassiopeia stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of countless stories. There's an old tale about this place, she began, drawing everyone's attention. They say the galactic core is where reality and myth intertwine, where the phoenix makes its eternal nest among the stars. But why do you think no one has ever returned from attempting this crossing? The question hung heavy in the space between them, making everyone shift uncomfortably. It was Draco who finally broke the silence, emerging from the shadows where he preferred to linger. Because they tried to fight against the core's nature, rather than becoming one with it, he said cryptically. The Phoenix guidance isn't about showing us a safe path, it's about teaching us to dance with the chaos. As if in response to Draco's words, a brilliant light emerged from the heart of the galaxy, taking the form of the magnificent phoenix they had only glimpsed in ancient drawings. Its cosmic wings spread across the star-filled expanse, and its eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of eons. But how do we dance with chaos? Orion asked, his scientific mind struggling to grasp the metaphysical concept. There are radiation storms, gravitational anomalies, and time distortions out there. Our instruments can barely function this close to the core. The Phoenix voice resonated in their minds, not in words but in feelings and images. Andromeda was the first to understand. Look, she exclaimed, pointing to the way the stellar winds moved. The chaos isn't random, it's a pattern, like a cosmic river flowing through space. Lyra smiled proudly at her observation. Yes, and like any river, it has its own rhythm. We don't need to fight against it. We need to flow with it. She turned to the group. But this journey will require absolute trust in each other. One mistake, one moment of doubt, and we could be lost forever. The team began their preparation, each member contributing their unique skills. Cassiopeia shared tales of successful journeys from mythology, not as mere stories, but as encoded wisdom about navigating the unknown. Draco revealed ancient techniques for reading the energy flows of space itself, while Lyra and Orion worked together to modify their instruments to function in extreme conditions. As they made their final preparations, Andromeda noticed something peculiar. The Phoenix light. It's creating a path, but it's not stable. It's like it's waiting for something from us. It's waiting for us to make a choice, Draco explained, his usually mysterious demeanor now clear and focused. The Great Crossing isn't just about reaching the other side, it's about transformation. Are we willing to let go of who we were to become who we need to be? The question resonated deeply with Orion. All his life, he had approached the cosmos through the lens of scientific certainty. Now, standing at the edge of known space, he realized that some truths couldn't be measured with instruments alone. We've come too far to turn back now, Orion declared, looking at each of his companions. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together. The Phoenix light pulsed in response, creating a shimmering pathway through the chaos of the galactic core. But questions still lingered. Would their preparation be enough? What transformations awaited them in the heart of the galaxy? And most importantly, would they all make it through to the other side? As they took their first steps into the unknown, guided by the Phoenix ethereal light, they knew they were about to discover answers to questions they hadn't even thought to ask. The Great Crossing had begun, and with it, the greatest test of their journey so far. What mysteries await our travelers in the heart of the galaxy? How will they navigate the chaos that has claimed so many before them? And what transformations must they undergo to emerge on the other side? The answers lie ahead, in the swirling cosmic dance of the galactic core, where science and magic become one, and where the Phoenix guidance will prove to be both their greatest challenge and their only hope for survival. As the celestial dust settled from their harrowing journey through the galactic core, Orion and his companions found themselves forever changed. The experience had left an indelible mark on their souls, transforming their understanding of not just the cosmos, but their own place within it. Sitting beneath a canopy of stars at their makeshift camp, Orion's hands trembled slightly as he attempted to sketch what they had witnessed. How do you capture infinity on paper? He wondered aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. The Phoenix's guidance through the core had shown them more than just celestial mechanics. It had revealed the very fabric of existence itself. Lyra, her silver hair reflecting starlight, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Perhaps, my dear student, that's not the point," she said, her eyes twinkling with newfound wisdom. "What we've seen isn't meant to be captured, but experienced." She reached for her ancient map, now seeming somehow both more precious and less significant than before. Andromeda, who had been uncharacteristically quiet since their emergence from the core, finally spoke. "You remember when we first started this journey? We thought we were seeking answers about the Milky Way. But we were really searching for something deeper, weren't we?" Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Cassiopeia, who had been weaving a new tale in her journal, looked up. "Every story I've ever told about the stars seems different now," she admitted. "It's as if we've been reading a book our whole lives, only to discover we've been holding it upside down." She closed her journal, leaving the page blank. Some experiences defied even her storytelling abilities. The transformation was perhaps most evident in Draco, whose mysterious nature had given way to something more profound. "I spent years guarding secrets," he said, emerging from the shadows where he typically lurked. "But what we've witnessed makes those secrets seem like grains of sand on a cosmic beach." His usually cryptic demeanor had been replaced by an almost childlike wonder. The Phoenix, though no longer physically present, had left them with an understanding that seemed to pulse through their very beings. Each star above them now felt like a familiar friend, each nebula a story waiting to be understood. But more importantly, they began to see how everything, every particle, every beam of light, every moment of time, was interconnected. "What do we do with this knowledge?" Orion asked, voicing the question that weighed on all their minds. "How does one continue with ordinary life after glimpsing the extraordinary?" Lyra smiled, her wisdom seeming to deepen with each passing moment. "We learn to see the cosmic in the ordinary," she replied. "Every sunrise becomes a reminder of stellar birth. Every raindrop carries the memory of cosmic clouds. Every human connection echoes the gravitational dance of binary stars." As they sat together, each lost in their own thoughts, yet somehow more connected than ever, Andromeda suddenly stood up. "Look," she exclaimed, pointing to a phenomenon none of them had noticed before. The stars above seemed to pulse in harmony, as if breathing together in a cosmic symphony. "We're not just observing the universe anymore," Cassiopeia realized aloud. "We're participating in it. We always were, we just couldn't see it before." The group spent the night sharing their individual experiences, each revelation building upon the last. Orion spoke of seeing time not as a linear path, but as a spiral dance. Andromeda described feeling the Earth's rotation beneath her feet as if for the first time. Draco revealed how his years of solitude had prepared him for this moment of ultimate connection. As dawn approached, bringing with it the first hints of light, they understood that their journey wasn't ending. It was transforming. The quest that had begun as a search for astronomical knowledge had become something far more profound, an awakening to the cosmic nature of existence itself. "What's next for us?" Andromeda asked, her adventurous spirit already stirring despite their recent ordeal. Orion looked at his companions, seeing them as if for the first time. Each one a universe unto themselves, yet part of something greater. "I think," he said slowly, "our real journey is just beginning. We've been given a gift, but also a responsibility. How do we share what we've learned with others?" Lyra nodded approvingly. "That, my dear friends, is the question that will guide our next steps. The universe has shown us its dance. Now we must learn to teach others the steps." As the sun rose, casting long shadows across their camp, each member of the group felt the weight and wonder of their transformation. They had sought to understand the Milky Way, but in doing so, they had discovered something far more precious. A new way of seeing not just the cosmos, but themselves and their place within it. The cosmic awakening had begun, and with it, the realization that every ending is just another beginning in the eternal dance of the universe. What new adventures awaited them? What deeper mysteries would they uncover? The stars above seemed to twinkle with anticipation, holding countless more secrets waiting to be revealed. The night sky seemed different somehow as Orion and his companions gathered around their campfire, the stars above them pulsing with an unusual intensity. The journey had changed them all, but none more so than Draco, who sat slightly apart from the group, his usually shadowed features now illuminated by the dancing flames. "I suppose it's time I shared the whole truth," Draco began, his voice carrying a weight that made everyone lean in closer. "I wasn't always the keeper of secrets you know me as today." Lyra's eyes widened with recognition as Draco spoke, her hands instinctively clutching the ancient map she carried. "You were there at the beginning, weren't you?" she asked softly. Draco nodded, a sad smile playing across his face. "I was once a guardian of the Milky Way's core, tasked with protecting the Phoenix and the balance it maintains. But fear led me astray. I convinced myself that by holding onto the knowledge of the galaxy's heart, I was keeping it safe." Andromeda, who had been watching Draco intently, spoke up. "But that's not how knowledge works, is it? It's meant to be shared to grow." "Precisely," Draco replied, his voice thick with emotion. "My fear of the knowledge being misused turned into possessiveness, and eventually, isolation. I became the very thing I sought to prevent, a barrier to understanding." Cassiopeia, who had been unusually quiet, began to weave the threads of this revelation into a greater tapestry. "There's an old tale about a star keeper who loved the light so much that he tried to contain it, only to find that light must be free to shine. Is that what happened, Draco?" The question hung in the air as Draco rose and walked to the edge of their camp, his gaze fixed on the galactic core visible in the night sky. "The Phoenix showed me visions," he continued, "of what would happen if humanity never understood its place in the cosmos. We're not meant to be mere observers, but participants in the grand dance of creation." Orion felt a shiver run down his spine. What kind of visions? "A future where fear of the unknown leads to stagnation, where the connection between earth and sky is severed," Draco explained. "But also visions of hope, of what could be if we embrace our role as cosmic citizens." As he spoke, the stars seemed to pulse in response, and a warm wind carried the scent of stardust through their camp. Lyra unfolded her map, which now glowed with new markings previously invisible. "The map," she gasped. "It's showing us the final path to the Phoenix, but..." She trailed off, her expression troubled. "But what?" Andromeda pressed. "The path requires a key," Draco said, turning back to face them. "A key that I've carried within me all these years, waiting for the right moment, the right people." Understanding dawned on Orion's face. "That's why you've been guiding us all along, isn't it? Even when we thought you were working against us." Draco nodded. "The Phoenix knew you would come, Orion. All of you. But the key cannot simply be handed over. It requires a sacrifice." The word sacrifice echoed ominously through the camp. Cassiopeia leaned forward, her storyteller's intuition sensing the weight of the moment. "What kind of sacrifice?" "The keeper must become one of the key," Draco explained, his voice steady despite the gravity of his words. "My physical form must dissolve into pure energy to unlock the final gateway to the Phoenix." A heavy silence fell over the group as the implications sank in. Andromeda was the first to speak, her voice barely a whisper. "There has to be another way." But Draco's smile was peaceful now, free from the burden of centuries of secrecy. "This is my redemption," he said. "My fear once closed the path. Now my courage will open it." As if in response to his words, the stars above began to align in new patterns, and the air crackled with cosmic energy. Draco's form began to shimmer, becoming translucent at the edges. "Will we see you again?" Orion asked, fighting back tears. "In every star that guides you, in every mystery you uncover," Draco replied. "The universe never truly lets go of those who love it. Remember, that when you meet the Phoenix. With those words, Draco's form began to dissolve into points of light, each one rising toward the galaxy's heart like a farewell wave. The air filled with a soft humming, and the map in Lyra's hands burst into brilliant illumination, revealing the final path to their destination. As the last traces of Draco's physical form merged with the cosmic energy around them, his voice echoed one final time. The greatest acts of love are those that set others free to find their own way. Now go, the Phoenix awaits. The group stood in reverent silence, watching as the points of light that had been Draco danced across the sky before settling into new constellations. Their path forward was clear now, but the weight of Draco's sacrifice would forever remind them of the price of wisdom and the true meaning of redemption. What mysteries would the Phoenix reveal? And how would Draco's sacrifice change their understanding of their cosmic journey? As dawn approached, these questions lingered in their minds, pushing them forward toward their final destination, forever changed by the night's events. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon in hues of amber and rose, Orion stood atop the ancient observatory, his heart heavy with the weight of Draco's sacrifice. The events of the past few hours had changed everything they thought they knew about their journey. Beside him, Andromeda placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her eyes reflecting the fading stars above. "Do you think Draco knew all along?" Orion whispered, his voice barely audible above the morning breeze. That his role wasn't to guard the secret of the Milky Way, but to become part of it. Lyra approached them, the ancient map in her weathered hands glowing with an intensity they had never seen before. "Some destinies," she said softly, "are written in the stars long before we understand them." Draco's sacrifice wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The map began to pulse with a rhythm that seemed to match the beating of their hearts. Cassiopeia, who had been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward, her eyes wide with recognition. "It's just like the old stories," she breathed. "The ones about the celestial symphony, when all the elements of the cosmos aligned to reveal their greatest secret." As if responding to her words, the air around them began to vibrate with an otherworldly melody. It started as a whisper, barely perceptible, but grew steadily stronger. The stars above seemed to pulse in harmony with the sound, creating patterns they had never noticed before. "Look," Andromeda pointed to the sky, where the stars of the Milky Way were beginning to move in a synchronized dance. "They're forming something." The revelation struck Orion like a bolt of lightning. "It's not just a galaxy," he gasped. "The Milky Way is an instrument, the greatest instrument ever created." Lyra's eyes sparkled with understanding as she spread the map wider. Every celestial body, every star, every planet, they're all playing their part in an eternal symphony. And Draco, her voice caught with emotion. Draco knew he needed to become one with it to complete the melody. The music grew stronger, and with it came images, visions of the universe's creation, of stars being born and dying, of galaxies dancing through space. Each note told a story, each harmony revealed a secret of existence itself. Cassiopeia began to weave the story as it unfolded before them. "In the beginning, there was silence," she said, her voice merging with the cosmic melody. "But the universe yearned for expression, for meaning, for connection. And so it created music, a celestial symphony, to bind all things together." As they watched in awe, a familiar shape began to form in the center of the galaxy. The Phoenix, its wings spread wide across the cosmic canvas. But this wasn't just any phoenix. It was the embodiment of the symphony itself, the keeper of the eternal song. That's why we needed all of us, Andromeda realized. Each of us represents a different aspect of the symphony. Lyra with her wisdom, Cassiopeia with her stories, Draco with his sacrifice. "And you, Orion," Lyra turned to him with a smile, "with your unwavering desire to understand it all." The symphony reached a crescendo, and in that moment, everything became clear. The Milky Way wasn't just their home galaxy. It was a living, breathing composition, a song that had been playing since the beginning of time. Every star was a note, every constellation a verse, and every being within it was part of its endless chorus. But with this revelation came responsibility that Orion could feel settling onto his shoulders. "What do we do now?" he asked, looking at his companions. How do we protect this knowledge? Cassiopeia stepped forward, her eyes shining with purpose. We do what has always been done. We share the story. Not just of what the Milky Way is, but of how we discovered its truth. Of Draco's sacrifice, of our journey, of the symphony that connects us all. The phoenix above seemed to nod in agreement, its fiery form casting a warm glow over them all. And as they stood there, bathed in starlight and cosmic music, they understood that their journey hadn't really ended. It had transformed into something even more meaningful. Listen, Lyra whispered, closing her eyes. Can you hear it? Your own part in the symphony. And they could. Each of them could feel their connection to the cosmic song, their role in the eternal dance of the stars. The Milky Way wasn't just a path they had followed. It was a song they had always been part of, waiting to be discovered. As the sun rose fully above the horizon, the visible manifestation of the symphony began to fade, but they could still feel it resonating within them. They had uncovered the greatest secret of all, that they weren't just observers of the cosmos, but active participants in its endless song. So, Andromeda said with a smile, "What's our next adventure?" Orion looked at his friends, at the map, at the galaxy above, and felt a new purpose filling his heart. The end of their journey had become a beginning, and the Symphony of the Stars was calling them to share its music with the world. What new mysteries would they uncover as they learned to play their parts in the celestial symphony? What other secrets did the cosmos hold, waiting to be discovered by those who knew how to listen? The adventure, it seemed, was far from over. The dawn broke over the ancient observatory, casting long shadows across the weathered stone floor where Orion stood, his eyes fixed on the fading stars. The weight of recent revelations about the Milky Way's true nature still pressed heavily upon his shoulders. How could one comprehend being chosen as a guardian of something so vast, so eternal? It's different now, isn't it? Andromeda's voice broke through his contemplation. She joined him at the observatory's edge, her usual adventurous spirit tempered by the gravity of their new reality. Looking at the stars, knowing what we know. Orion nodded slowly, remembering the incredible revelation from their encounter with Phoenix at the galaxy's heart. To think that each star holds not just light, but stories, memories, and wisdom of countless civilizations. We're not just observers anymore, Andromeda. We're keepers of these cosmic chronicles. Lyra approached them, her ancient map now glowing with a new significance. Being chosen as guardians isn't just about protecting knowledge, she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. It's about understanding why this knowledge must be preserved. Tell me, what do you think makes a true guardian of stars? Before either could answer, Cassiopeia emerged from the shadows, her storyteller's shawl shimmering with constellations. Perhaps I can help with that question. There's an old tale about the first guardians of the Milky Way. As she began her story, the others gathered around, including Draco, who had finally shed his mysterious facade to become an integral part of their circle. The tale spoke of ancient beings who'd learned to read the stories written in starlight, becoming bridges between the cosmic and earthly realms. But why us? Orion interrupted, voicing the doubt that had been gnawing at him. We're just people who love the stars. And that's precisely why, Draco spoke, his voice carrying the wisdom of ages. The greatest guardians aren't chosen for their power, but for their capacity to wonder, to question, to love the very thing they protect. Andromeda stood up, pacing thoughtfully. The Phoenix showed us that the Milky Way isn't just a collection of stars and dust. It's a living library, a repository of all that was and all that could be. But what does that mean for us, practically speaking? Lyra unfolded her map on the observatory floor, but now it showed more than just star patterns. It revealed flowing rivers of energy connecting different celestial points. Our responsibility is threefold, she explained. First, we must learn to read these cosmic stories. Second, we must protect them from being lost or forgotten. And third, we must know when and how to share them with those who are ready to understand. But how will we know who's ready? Orion asked, his astronomer's mind struggling with the subjective nature of this task. Cassiopeia smiled knowingly. The stars themselves will guide us, just as they guided you all to this moment. Remember how your journey began? With simple curiosity and an open heart. The group fell silent, each remembering their own path to this moment. Draco moved to the center of their circle, his formerly mysterious nature now transformed into that of a teacher and guide. "There's something else you need to understand about being guardians," he said. "The knowledge we protect isn't meant to be locked away. It's meant to evolve, to grow with each new generation that discovers it. Your own stories are now part of the cosmic tapestry." Andromeda's eyes widened with realization. "So when we look up at the stars now, we're not just seeing light from distant suns." Orion completed her thought. "We're seeing the accumulated wisdom of countless civilizations, all preserved in the cosmic dance of the Milky Way." Phoenix's words from their previous encounter echoed in their minds. The galaxy is not just a place, but a living memory, and you are now its custodians. As the first rays of sunlight began to wash out the stars, the group stood together, each feeling the weight and honor of their new role. They were no longer just explorers and seekers. They were guardians of an ancient legacy, tasked with preserving and sharing the wisdom of the cosmos. "So," Lyra said, rolling up her map, "shall we begin our first lessons, guardians?" The others nodded, ready to embrace their new responsibility. But as they prepared to start their training, Orion raised one last question. "What if we make mistakes? What if we're not ready for this responsibility?" Cassiopeia laughed softly. "That's exactly why you're ready. The best guardians are those who never stop questioning, never stop learning, and never forget their own humanity in the face of cosmic wonders." As they gathered around Lyra for their first lesson, each felt a profound connection to the stars above and to each other. They had begun their journey as seekers of knowledge, but they would continue it as guardians of the greatest story ever told, the living history of the Milky Way itself. What mysteries would they uncover in their new role? What ancient wisdom would they be tasked with protecting? And how would their own stories become part of the cosmic tapestry they now guarded? These questions hung in the air like starlight, waiting to be explored in the chapters that lay ahead. The chamber at the heart of the Milky Way pulsed with an ethereal light as phoenix, its feathers shimmering with the brilliance of 1,000 stars, addressed our weary travelers. Orion, still processing their newfound role as guardians of the stars, stood beside Andromeda, their shoulders touching in silent support. "What you have discovered here is merely the beginning." Phoenix's voice resonated through their minds, each word carrying the weight of cosmic wisdom. "The galaxy's future now rests in your hands, but with it comes a choice that will echo through the ages." Lyra stepped forward, her ancient map glowing faintly in response to Phoenix's presence. "What choice must we make?" she asked, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Phoenix's wings spread wide, creating a canvas of starlight that displayed visions of possible futures. The Milky Way stands at a crossroads. One path leads to stability, maintaining the delicate balance we've known for eons. The other, the mythical creature pause, its eyes reflecting the birth and death of countless stars. The other path embraces change, allowing the galaxy to evolve in ways we cannot fully predict. Cassiopeia, who had been unusually quiet, found herself drawn to the shifting images. "This reminds me of an ancient tale," she began, her storyteller's voice adding depth to the moment. "Of how the first stars had to choose between eternal stillness and the dance of cosmic motion. Their choice gave birth to the galaxy as we know it." Draco, who had remained in the shadows, finally spoke. "But this choice is different, isn't it, Phoenix? This isn't just about motion versus stillness. It's about the very nature of our galaxy's future." "Indeed," Phoenix confirmed. "As guardians, you must decide. Will you preserve the galaxy as it is, protecting its current form for generations to come? Or will you allow it to transform, accepting the risks and possibilities that come with change?" Orion felt the weight of this decision in his chest. His lifelong study of the stars had taught him that change was constant in the cosmos. Yet the responsibility of actively choosing the galaxy's path was overwhelming. He turned to Andromeda, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in her eyes. "But how can we make such a monumental decision?" Andromeda voiced the question that plagued them all. "How can we know which path is right?" Phoenix's form shifted, becoming both more brilliant and more transparent. "Perhaps the question isn't about right or wrong, but about understanding the nature of existence itself. What is the purpose of the cosmos? Is it to maintain what is, or to become what could be? Lyra studied her map, tracing the patterns she had followed for so many years. Throughout our journey, we've learned that the galaxy is both constant and ever-changing. The stars we use for navigation remain fixed in their patterns, yet they themselves are in constant motion. Every story I've ever told, Cassiopeia added, speaks of both preservation and transformation. The heroes who maintained ancient traditions and those who dared to forge new paths. Both were necessary for the tales to have meaning. As the team contemplated their choice, Phoenix shared more visions. One showed a galaxy preserved in perfect balance, its current beauty maintained for eternity. The other revealed a Milky Way in constant evolution, with new stellar formations and possibilities emerging, though some familiar patterns would fade away. Remember, Phoenix cautioned, this choice will affect not just the stars above, but every world that looks up to them. Every dreamer who finds inspiration in the night sky, every navigator who relies on stellar patterns, every culture that weaves its stories around the constellations. Draco moved closer to the group, his mysterious nature seeming to align with the gravity of the moment. Perhaps we should consider why we were chosen as guardians in the first place. Each of us brings a different perspective. The explorer, the mentor, the storyteller, the scientist, the keeper of secrets. The chamber fell silent as each member of the team reflected on their journey. They remembered the challenges they'd overcome, the wisdom they'd gathered, and the bonds they'd formed. The choice before them would define not just their legacy as guardians, but the very future of the galaxy they'd grown to love so deeply. Phoenix waited patiently, its presence both comforting and challenging. Take time to consider, it advised, but know that the moment of choice approaches. The galaxy's next chapter awaits your decision. As our heroes stood there beneath the swirling cosmic energies at the heart of the Milky Way, they faced their greatest challenge yet. Not a physical obstacle to overcome or a mystery to solve, but a choice that would resonate through space and time. What would they choose? And how would their decision shape the future of not just the galaxy, but of all those who look to the stars for guidance, inspiration, and hope? The answer lay in their hands, as Phoenix's promise of both preservation and transformation hung in the balance, waiting for the Guardians to write the next chapter in the cosmic story. As the Phoenix's vision faded from their minds, Orion, Andromeda, Lyra, Cassiopeia, and Draco stood in silence, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they had witnessed. The cosmic dance of creation and destruction played out before them like an intricate ballet, each movement telling a story of birth, death, and rebirth. How can we possibly bear such responsibility? Orion whispered, his voice trembling with both awe and uncertainty. The young astronomer's eyes reflected the countless stars above, each one seeming to pulse with newfound significance. Lyra stepped forward, her weathered hands clutching the ancient map that had guided them so far. Perhaps, dear Orion, the question isn't whether we can bear it, but rather why we were chosen to witness it at all. She traced the familiar constellations on the map, their patterns now holding deeper meaning than ever before. Andromeda moved to stand beside her friend, her adventurous spirit somewhat subdued by the gravity of their situation. The Phoenix showed us more than just a vision of the future, she said thoughtfully. It showed us the very rhythm of the universe itself. Cassiopeia, who had been unusually quiet, began to speak in the measured tones she usually reserved for her most important tales. In all my years of storytelling, I never truly understood the depth of the legends I shared. The stories spoke of cycles, of endings that were really beginnings, but now... She paused, gathering her thoughts. Now I see that we are all part of a greater story. A story that has no true ending, Draco added, emerging from the shadows where he had been contemplating the Phoenix message. Just like the Milky Way itself, we are caught in an eternal dance of transformation. The group formed a circle, much like the celestial bodies they had studied for so long. Above them, the galaxy stretched across the night sky, its spiral arms seeming to reach out to them in welcome. But what did it mean to accept their destiny? What role would each of them play in this cosmic ballet? The Phoenix showed us destruction, Orion said, his voice stronger now. But it also showed us creation, One cannot exist without the other, can it? Lyra shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. Then more than day can exist without night, or summer without winter. But tell me, what did you see in those moments of creation? The question hung in the air, inviting each of them to share their perspective. Andromeda was the first to speak. I saw hope, she said firmly. In each explosion of light, in each collapse of matter, there was always a spark of something new. And courage, Cassiopeia added. The courage to let go of what was, to make room for what could be. Draco, who had spent so long guarding the secrets of the galaxy, finally seemed ready to share his wisdom. The heart of the Milky Way beats with this very rhythm. It is not just about destruction and creation, but about transformation. Each ending carries within it the seeds of a new beginning. As they spoke, something began to shift in the air around them. The stars seemed to pulse in time with their words, as if the very galaxy was acknowledging their understanding. But with this understanding came questions that needed answers. If we accept this destiny, Orion began, voicing what they all were thinking. What changes? What remains the same? Lyra unfolded her map completely, laying it on the ground between them. The constellations seemed to shimmer in the starlight, forming patterns they had never noticed before. Perhaps that's part of what we must discover. The Phoenix has shown us the dance, but we must learn the steps ourselves. Andromeda knelt beside the map, her fingers tracing new connections between the stars. Look at how everything is connected, she marveled. Each star, each constellation, playing its part in the greater whole. Just as we must play our parts, Cassiopeia said softly. But what are those parts to be? The question echoed in their minds as they studied the map together. The Phoenix vision had shown them the grand scale of cosmic renewal, but their individual roles in this eternal dance remained unclear. Yet somehow, this uncertainty felt right, like the first step in a journey that would unfold naturally in its own time. I think, Draco said, breaking a long moment of contemplation, that accepting our destiny doesn't mean knowing every step ahead. It means being willing to move with the rhythm of the universe, to be part of its transformation. As if in response to his words, a shooting star streaked across the sky, leaving a trail of light that seemed to linger longer than usual. Was it a sign? A reminder of the Phoenix promise? Orion stood up straighter, his initial fear giving way to determination. Then perhaps our first step is simply to acknowledge that we are part of this dance, that our actions ripple through the cosmos just as the movement of stars affects us. But how will we know if we're moving in the right direction? Andromeda asked, giving voice to their collective uncertainty. Lyra's answer came with the wisdom of years spent studying the stars. The same way the celestial bodies know their paths, by following the natural flow of the universe, by trusting in the dance itself. As they stood together under the vast expanse of the Milky Way, each of them felt a subtle shift in their understanding. The weight of their destiny remained, but it no longer felt like a burden. Instead, it felt like an invitation to join in the eternal dance of the cosmos, to play their part in the never-ending cycle of renewal. But what steps would this cosmic dance require of them? What transformations lay ahead? And how would their acceptance of this destiny change not only their own lives, but the very fabric of the galaxy they had come to know so well? The cool evening breeze carried whispers of change as Orion stood atop Observatory Hill, surrounded by a group of wide-eyed young astronomers. The same spark of curiosity he possessed years ago now gleamed in their eager faces. How had time passed so swiftly since his own journey began? He wondered if they could feel the weight of the moment as he prepared to share what he'd learned about the Milky Way's greatest secrets. Every star has a story, he began, his voice carrying the wisdom of countless nights spent under the cosmic canvas. And tonight, I'll share with you how I learned to read them. He glanced at Lyra, who stood nearby with a knowing smile, her silver hair catching the starlight just as it had when she first showed him the ancient map years ago. Andromeda stepped forward, her adventurous spirit unchanged by time. Tell them about our first expedition, Orion, she encouraged, her eyes twinkling with remembered excitement. Tell them how we discovered that the Milky Way isn't just a band of stars, but a living story waiting to be understood. As Orion began recounting their tale, Cassiopeia emerged from the shadows, our storyteller's presence adding depth to every word. The greatest mysteries, she interjected, are often hidden in plain sight. Who among you has wondered why the galaxy spirals as it does? Several hands shot up, reminding Orion of his own burning questions from the past. The night deepened as Orion shared the wisdom they gathered about the cosmic dance, the eternal cycle of stellar birth and death that Phoenix had revealed to them. He explained how each star contributed to the greater whole, just as each person's quest for knowledge added to humanity's understanding of the universe. But what about Draco? A young voice called out from the gathering. Did you ever truly understand the key to the heart of the Milky Way? Orion exchanged glances with his companions, remembering their encounters with the mysterious figure who had transformed from enigma to ally. Draco taught us that the key wasn't a physical object, he explained, but rather the understanding that the galaxy's heart beats within each of us who seeks to know its mysteries. As he spoke, Lyra unfolded the ancient map she'd once shared with him. Its celestial patterns seemed to shimmer with new meaning as the students gathered around. This map, she said, has guided many before you, but each generation must chart its own course through the cosmos. Cassiopeia stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of countless stories. The tales I've shared through the years are more than mere myths, she revealed. They're guideposts left by those who walked this path before us. Who among you will add your own chapter to this eternal story? The question hung in the air as Andromeda began distributing small journals to each student. Your observations, your questions, your discoveries, they all matter, she explained. Just as we once traced the galaxy's path across distant lands, you'll each find your own way to understand its mysteries. Orion watched as the students began making their first entries, their faces illuminated by starlight. He remembered his own journey's beginning, the questions that had driven him forward, the challenges that had seemed insurmountable. Would these young astronomers face similar trials? What new discoveries awaited them in the vast cosmic ocean? Remember, he continued, the Phoenix taught us that renewal is constant in the universe. Each ending brings a new beginning. Each question answered leads to deeper mysteries. Who can tell me what you see when you look at the Milky Way stretching across the sky? The answers came quickly, each unique, each valuable. One saw a river of light, another a bridge between worlds, yet another the spiral dance of countless suns. Orion nodded, understanding that each perspective added to the whole, just as each star contributed to the galaxy's brilliance. As the night wore on, Lyra began teaching the students how to read the ancient map symbols, while Cassiopeia shared tales of constellations that had guided countless generations. Andromeda organized them into groups for their first collaborative observations, her enthusiasm infectious. But how will we know if we're on the right path? Asked one student, voicing the uncertainty they all felt. Orion smiled, remembering his own doubts. The path itself is what matters, he explained. Each of you will find your own way to understand the cosmos, just as we did. The questions you ask today will light the way for those who follow tomorrow. As the first light of dawn began to paint the horizon, Orion looked at his companions, Lyra, Cassiopeia, Andromeda. Each of them now mentors in their own right. They had completed their journey only to begin another, guiding the next generation toward their own discoveries. The legacy of starlight continued, passed from hand to hand, heart to heart, generation to generation. As the students departed, their minds full of questions and possibilities, Orion knew that the eternal dance would continue. The Milky Way's mysteries would never be fully solved. That was its greatest gift, the endless invitation to explore, to wonder, to seek understanding. What new chapters would these young astronomers write in the cosmic story? What undiscovered secrets still waited in the depths of space? The journey was beginning anew, and the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, welcoming the next generation of explorers to their eternal dance. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon in hues of purple and gold, Orion stood atop the ancient observatory, his mind heavy with the responsibility that now rested upon his shoulders. The knowledge passed down from generations of stargazers before him felt like both a blessing and a burden. How would he maintain the delicate balance between preserving the ancient wisdom and embracing new discoveries. "You seem troubled, my friend." Lyra's gentle voice broke through his contemplation. She approached with the familiar star map clutched in her weathered hands, its edges glowing with a faint ethereal light. "The legacy we carry," Orion began, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's more complex than I ever imagined. How do we ensure we're worthy of it?" Lyra smiled knowingly, spreading the map before them. "That's precisely why we face this final challenge. The cosmic balance isn't just about knowledge. It's about understanding our place within the grand dance of the universe." Meanwhile, in the chamber below, Andromeda and Cassiopeia were deep in discussion, surrounded by ancient scrolls and star charts. The Phoenix spoke of a test. Andromeda mused, her fingers tracing the constellation patterns. "But what kind of challenge requires all of us to prove our worth?" Cassiopeia's eyes sparkled with ancient wisdom as she shared, "In all my years of storytelling, I've learned that the greatest challenges often come not from external forces, but from within ourselves. We must each face our own doubts and fears." The air grew thick with anticipation as Draco emerged from the shadows, his presence commanding attention. "The balance of the cosmos," he began, his voice resonating with power, "is not maintained by single actions, but by the continuous harmony of many working as one. Each of you carries a piece of this puzzle." The group gathered in a circle as Draco revealed an ancient artifact, a crystalline sphere that seemed to contain swirling galaxies within its depths. "This is the heart of balance," he explained. "It responds only to those who truly understand their role in the cosmic dance." One by one, they were called to approach the sphere. Andromeda stepped forward first, her adventurous spirit tempered by the wisdom gained through their journey. As she touched the sphere, it pulsed with a warm light, revealing images of unexplored celestial paths waiting to be discovered. Cassiopeia followed, her stories now carrying not just entertainment, but profound truth about the nature of existence. The sphere responded with a cascade of constellation patterns, each telling its own tale of creation and purpose. When Lyra approached, her years of mentorship and guidance manifested as a brilliant display of interconnected stars, showing how each action and decision influenced the greater whole. The sphere acknowledged her role as a bridge between past and future. Orion watched, his heart racing, as his turn approached. What would the sphere reveal about his journey? As his fingers made contact with the crystal surface, something unexpected happened. Instead of showing him visions, the sphere began to resonate with a frequency that matched his heartbeat. "The cosmic balance," Draco explained, "is not about achieving perfection. It's about understanding that every element of the universe, from the smallest asteroid to the largest galaxy, plays its part in the greater whole." The Phoenix appeared above them, its fiery form casting warm light throughout the chamber. "You have all grown beyond my expectations," it declared. "The challenge was never about proving your worth to others. It was about discovering your own unique contribution to the cosmic dance." As the group stood united, the sphere began to pulse with a rhythm that matched their combined heartbeats. The walls of the observatory seemed to fade away, revealing the vast expanse of the Milky Way surrounding them in all its glory. "But how do we maintain this balance?" Orion asked, voicing the question that weighed on everyone's minds. The Phoenix's response was both simple and profound. "By remembering that you are not separate from the cosmos. You are part of it. Every action, every decision, every moment of wonder and discovery contributes to the eternal dance of creation." Lyra placed a hand on Orion's shoulder, her eyes filled with pride. "This is why we pass the knowledge to the next generation, not just to preserve it, but to allow it to grow and evolve, just as the universe itself does." As they stood together, watching the cosmic dance unfold around them, each member of the group understood their role in maintaining the balance. Andromeda would continue to explore and discover, pushing the boundaries of known space. Cassiopeia would ensure that the wisdom of the stars was preserved through her stories. Lyra would guide future generations of stargazers, while Orion would bridge the gap between ancient knowledge and new discoveries. The challenge had transformed them, not by changing who they were, but by helping them understand and embrace their true nature. The cosmic balance wasn't a destination to be reached, but a journey to be lived, moment by moment, star by star. As the first stars of evening began to appear in the darkening sky, they knew that this wasn't an ending, but a new beginning. The legacy they carried would continue to evolve, just as the universe itself did, in an eternal dance of creation and discovery. What new wonders awaited them in this next phase of their journey? Only the stars knew for sure, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together as guardians of the cosmic balance. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of purple and gold, Orion stood atop the ancient observatory, his heart full of both accomplishment and wonder. The final challenge of maintaining cosmic balance had been met, but something told him this wasn't truly the end, rather a new beginning. Have you ever felt that moment when one chapter closes, only to realize it's opening the door to something even greater? We did it, didn't we? Andromeda's voice carried across the morning air as she joined him at the observatory's edge. Her eyes reflected the fading stars, carrying the same mixture of triumph and anticipation that Orion felt. We did more than that. Lyra's wise voice added as she emerged from the shadows, the ancient map of the galaxy now glowing with a different kind of light. We've opened doors that haven't been opened for millennia. The map in her hands now showed not just the Milky Way, but pathways beyond, bridges to other galaxies that had long been forgotten. Cassiopeia, who had been quietly observing the sunrise, began to speak, her voice carrying the weight of a new story waiting to be told. You know, there's an ancient tale about what lies beyond our galaxy. They say that each galaxy is a single thought in the mind of the universe. What thoughts might we find in those distant lights? The question hung in the air, sparking imagination and possibility. But what would these new discoveries mean for future generations? How would they carry forward the knowledge they had gained? Draco, no longer the mysterious figure they had first encountered, stepped forward with Phoenix perched majestically on his shoulder. The balance we've achieved isn't just about maintaining what is, he explained, his voice carrying a new warmth. It's about creating space for what could be. Phoenix spread its magnificent wings, now shimmering with colors that seemed to reflect entire galaxies within their feathers. The creature's presence reminded them all of the eternal cycle of renewal they had witnessed at the galaxy's heart. But what role would they play in this new chapter? Orion found himself drawing out the journal he had kept throughout their journey. We need to ensure others can follow in our footsteps, he said, turning to his companions. But how do we translate everything we've learned into something future generations can understand? Andromeda picked up a fallen feather from Phoenix, turning it thoughtfully in her hands. Perhaps the answer isn't in just preserving knowledge, she suggested, but in preserving the spirit of discovery itself. The group gathered closer as Lyra spread the ancient map before them. But now, instead of showing them where to go, it seemed to be asking them where they wanted to go next. The pathways between galaxies glowed like invisible bridges waiting to be crossed. Cassiopeia began weaving a new tale, one that would serve as a guide for future explorers. In the time when the Milky Way first opened its hearts to travelers, she began, her words carrying power and purpose. 6 seekers discovered that every ending was just a different kind of beginning. As she spoke, Phoenix took flight, circling higher and higher until it seemed to dance among the last visible stars of the fading night. Its flight pattern began creating new constellations, not just markers of where they had been, but beacons pointing to where others might go. Draco, who had once guarded the galaxy's secrets, now became instrumental in designing ways to share them. Knowledge, like starlight, belongs to everyone, he said, helping Orion document their discoveries in ways that would resonate across generations. The group worked tirelessly as the day progressed, creating not just a record of their journey, but a framework for future exploration. They established new observatories, wrote guides for reading the stars, and created maps that would help others navigate both the physical and spiritual aspects of cosmic exploration. But perhaps their greatest achievement wasn't in what they built or wrote, it was in how they had changed. Each of them had grown beyond their original roles. Orion was no longer just a curious astronomer, but a bridge between worlds. Andromeda had become more than an explorer, emerging as a visionary who could see possibilities others missed. Lyra's mentorship had evolved into partnership, her wisdom now enhanced by the fresh perspectives of her former students. Cassiopeia's stories were no longer just tales of the past, but became living guidelines for the future. Draco, once a keeper of secrets, had transformed into a teacher of mysteries, while Phoenix remained a constant reminder that every ending contained the seeds of new beginnings. As the day drew to a close, they gathered once more at the observatory. The first stars of evening were beginning to appear, but now they saw them differently. Each point of light wasn't just a star, but a possibility, a question waiting to be asked, a journey waiting to begin. So, Andromeda asked, her eyes sparkling with familiar adventure, "Where shall we go next?" The question wasn't just for them, but for all who would follow in their footsteps. What new mysteries awaited in the space between galaxies? What undiscovered wonders might future generations find using the tools and wisdom they were leaving behind? As night fully descended, the Milky Way stretched across the sky like a road of light, but now they could see beyond it to the countless other galaxies that beckoned. Their journey had not just been about reaching destination, but about opening doors for others to follow, about ensuring that the spirit of discovery would continue to burn bright in the hearts of future explorers. And so, their story became not an ending but a beginning, a first chapter in humanity's greater journey into the cosmic ocean. What adventures await those who dare to follow their path? What new stories will be told about the mysteries that lie beyond the Milky Way? The answer, they knew, would be written in the stars by those who dare to look up and wonder, just as they had done at the start of their own journey. And isn't that, after all, how all great adventures begin?